Saxon, did you get this water from me?
I did.
So
well, actually, he told me to get it.
You boys are so sweet.
I thought you weren't a drinker.
Well, dude, don't let it stop you from doing what you need to do. I mean,
I need to stop.
there's normally freaking beer cans all over this table when I'm watching
Yeah, for sure.
the video version of the podcast.
Hopefully. All right. Yeah, I'm just trying to get like, you never know, like some people will sit there and say like, oh man, like turn the volume up on the YouTube. It's not loud enough, but it's like, it's loud enough on my phone. And then it's loud enough when I watch it. So it's like, you never know what people's audio situation is with their phones and shit. So
no idea.
Yeah, it's tough. And it's like, I don't know how to change it to where it has like a different picture for the, until after the video. So it has like the old picture on it until we do a new stream.
Right.
And I edit it. So it's kind of a learning how to do all this YouTube stuff.
Isn't there a YouTube video to show you how to do that?
There probably is, but that is more time that I haven't had time to,
this is true.
Yeah. Cory, welcome back.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate you having me back.
It's been 2 years, I think.
My episode was 50 something.
Yeah.
In my garage.
Uh-huh.
And now you're up to what? Almost 200?
It's 186 right now.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's a lot of content.
Too much.
130 sit-down interviews since mine. I mean, that's...
Yeah, I mean, shit, 2 years, though.
Out some content, boy.
You know, like I said, it was December. I remember because I was still living downtown Dallas, and my bike was still black, too.
It was, yeah, you just got it.
And then, and then since then, I mean, you were building that last FXR, the full RT. Yeah. That was literally sitting in there, like some of the parts were sitting there. You were just still collecting it, I think, at that point.
Well, it was blown apart.
Uh-huh.
So it's a restoration, right?
Yeah.
It's not like I did a lot of fab work or anything. It was mostly complete when I bought it. So it's an 84. It had at least 64,000 miles on it because the speedo cable was disconnected.
Yeah.
But it had a minimum.
Yeah,
64,000 miles. Yeah, so it was a mystery bike. But anyway, the thing that attracted me to it is it was all there. And the paint.
Yeah.
The paint was okay. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't screwed up like a lot of old bikes have been, molested quite frankly. So as long as the paint still had promise and the rest of the bike was all there, it was just a matter of taking everything apart, cleaning the heck out of it, doing a lot of vapor honing and stuff like we talked about, getting everything put back together and restoring it to the best of my ability.
You know, I can't remember all the contents of our first podcast that we did, but what was really the motivation compared to do it that way, to build such a mild bike compared to the last ones that you had done?
Yeah. So because my background is in custom choppers and everything is always handmade, everything custom.
Yeah.
You know, this was like a big departure for me. So this bike was meant to be a learning experience so I could learn the FXR platform. I wanted to know every nut, every bolt, every wire, every crimp, everything. And at the same time, I didn't want to go all out and start throwing a bunch of fabrication at it, and because it was, for the most part, like I said, it was complete, and I'm kind of a purist in some ways. I'm kind of hypocritical, right? But if a bike is complete and it's survived 36 or whatever years, I'm not going to be the one to screw it up and start parting it out or start giving some kind of sacrilegious treatment to what I consider as something that is special and has lasted that long for a reason because somebody cared about that bike. I'm just the next caretaker. I got the privilege of being that guy.
You don't really want to take something that was a complete bike and then just rip it apart, part it out, chop it up.
That's not me. A lot of people do that, though.
Yeah, but, like say you got a frame and then you got a motor. It's like going that direction. You know, I guess that would be.
That's different.
I could see that wouldn't be as much of a, like, I wouldn't mind chopping that kind of an idea versus like,
That's a totally different story. If you're collecting parts that have already been disassembled and scattered to the wind, and you want to put them back together and create a new creation with some kind of soul, that's totally different. But if it's already complete, don't touch it. It's only original once. I mean, and that's they say that, but it's true.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to be that guy to screw it up.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. It's only going to be original once.
I think I picked that up from American Pickers.
American Pickers.
Yeah, I think that was Mike Wolf.
So
good words of wisdom.
But then the other thing is, like, since you finished that bike, I mean, I've seen you in Sturgis on it. Like, you didn't ride the Sturgis.
No, I didn't
like,
ride. No, we trailered.
I feel like I saw you somewhere else too. Like,
well, at a few local events and such.
Yeah.
Because your camp out.
Exactly. I remember
out.
the camp out. Yeah.
That was the first little mini trip.
Yeah.
Just a couple hours up the road.
How has it been holding up? Because you had the motor completely done.
Completely.
Everything's like it's as close to a brand new bike as it could possibly ever be reproduced.
Yeah.
And how's it been holding up? Like all these trips
like
and all these miles.
Champ. Like a champ. I had my buddy Lee Bomar. I've known him for like 20 plus years. He's like super methodical and anal about his work. So I knew that the motor was going to be like absolutely in good hands. And whenever I did take it apart, though, like looking at the cylinder walls and everything, it was beautiful. It still had at least 60,000 plus miles on it. Still had a pretty cross hatch on it, and it was just
damn.
It's a testament to those Evo motors, man. They were put together really well. So yeah, the motor was gone through. I did the trans. I had everything powder coated. I didn't like re-chrome or anything. All I did was basically change the seat, change the bar and riser setup, because there's no way I'm rocking
those buckhorns or whatever those things were called.
I'm not doing that.
What about did you keep the same year transmission, or did you jump up to 39 mils?
I left it all original.
Kept it all original.
Yeah. I mean, and I even with the front end, like I was, people were saying, oh, you need to get rid of that 35 millimeter. But for me, the whole point was the preservation of the item. You
know what I've noticed that happens with a lot of folks that are quick to give that you need to go to 39.
Yeah.
I think it becomes, because I'm guilty of it, and I'm saying this from a user standpoint.
Yeah.
Is I feel like so many people just regurgitate that shit all the time. Like, oh man, like I've heard about this so many times. You need to get a DX front end. You get to do this, but I've also heard that those older transmissions, it just becomes one of those things that people just say that they spout it off as quick as they can.
You need a spline shaft tranny.
Yeah,
you got to get rid of that tapered shaft.
If you're gonna build a drag bike, or you're gonna
it's a stock 80-inch Evo. Like,
and those trannies will work just fine.
It's gonna work just fine.
Yeah,
I've built a few dozen bikes, and the vast majority of them were tapered shaft transmissions, and they held out just fine. There's an Evo in front of it, and a stock Evo. It's not a 124. Okay, most of these were kick-only applications. Yeah, unless you're hot rodding, or I'm not popping wheelies or doing burnouts or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I ride aggressive for my standards.
Yeah.
But it's not.
You're more rolling on the throttle aggressively,
right.
Not like dropping the throttle.
For sure. I'm not dumping. Dumping it. And no, that stuff will prematurely wear out the drivetrain.
I don't really, unless I've been drinking and someone else is riding that way. I'm pretty good at not doing it myself. So, but that's the same reason, because that on the M8 down there, with the 131. Everyone's told me the transmission was gonna fail. All these other parts are gonna fail.
Yeah,
10,000 plus miles. It's been holding up pretty good. So it's like, it's to me, it's more of a testament to how you ride and take care of your shit versus anything.
Absolutely. And I am super anal. I always let my bike warm up every time. Like, some people are real quick to, fire it up on a cold morning and just take off, and that ain't me.
Yeah,
I will let my stuff get warm till you could touch the rear rocker box and you feel it warm. Like, all right, this bike's ready to roll now. So that you'd be surprised how much longevity you can add to a bike by just letting it warm up.
So what really was the motivation, other than like, I mean, you just gave me kind of the motive. Like, was there any other reason why you picked the FXR over going any other direction?
Yeah, because I was getting sick of choppers.
For real? After
eating, sleeping, and breathing custom choppers for dang near 15 years, I was just kind of it had overstayed its welcome, I guess. I just started naturally losing interest. It wasn't like a concerted effort or decision. Like, that's it. I'm done with choppers. It was just like it was time for something else. You know,
So we're like, because you had done a lot of soft tails that you would like hardtail and do things like that too. But then that sporty, you know, that last sporty chop you did with the girder front end style, like that was like the bike that I remembered you from. Like I saw that bike before I ever knew who you were.
Yeah, at Giddy Up.
At Giddy Up.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, it was that, and then it was the FXR. I think you had a little soft tail that you were working on because you rode it to bike night.
I rode it to bike night. That was the one I built for my friend Luke.
That's right.
And it was still a soft tail. I still had the suspension and everything, but it had been. I cut the frame. I stretched the neck up like, I don't know, 3 inches or so. Kept the stock rake and all, but it was just time for something else. And I mentioned this on the last podcast, but when we went to Giddy Up, I was just looking through pictures that I had, pictures that people had hashtagged, like Giddy Up. And I was scrolling through and I saw a picture of an FXR T. And I'm like, oh my God. And I've seen them a million times. I don't know why. It just spoke to me. And I'm like, you know what? This seems like something I want to try. Yeah. And then I reached out to FXR Mike, and he started, sending me bikes that he would occasionally come across, like on Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever. But it was never quite right. But when he sent me this 84 RT, I'm like, yeah, this is the one. Yeah. And compared to what prices have done since then, I got that bike for a really good deal. I mean, granted, I put hundreds of hours into it to get it to where it is today, but I feel pretty good about my purchase. And it's only continuing to go up and up. Every year, it seems.
You know, like I said, you're not planning on getting rid of that bike or anything.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not hurting. No. So, yeah, I would, Lord willing, like to keep this one for a very, very long time. And then maybe one day, when we're not able to ride anymore, maybe find somebody else who's worthy enough to be the caretaker.
Got Thor's hammer over here.
Let me tell you something. And I could back this up because, talking about my Sporty, that Sporty was the last custom bike that I built. Yeah. Custom chopper. And that was my proudest achievement that I've ever made. But at the same time, I'm not the type of person that will collect bikes. Yeah. I'm not going to have a garage full of bikes that I can only ride, every so often. So I was ready to sell it. And I sold it months back. I think it was during COVID, several months back. But, you try to, you want someone who's going to appreciate your work. And I sold it to a guy in Dallas and stuff. And he was totally, totally into it. But I guess it didn't fit him properly. And now he's already sold it to someone else. So it's when you're seeing your baby, that prized possession start changing hands. And it's like, and
they do their little twist to it.
Everybody's got to make it their own. That's the thing I cannot understand. It would be like me buying art from a famous artist. Yeah. It doesn't have to be famous.
Just an artist, period.
Oh, dude, I love your work. It's so great. I hang it on the wall. I think I'm going to change it.
It needs a little red.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to put some stickers on it or just something to kind of liven it up. Like, can you imagine?
Yeah, I know what
you mean. I mean, I say all this, but at the same time, I can't get upset. If it was so special to me, then people would, why did you sell it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, because I had a couple of years of riding on it, and it was a blast, but I was ready to move on. And be quite honest, once you ride an FXRT, and then you're on a chopper, with this kind of position, it's night and day. It's like, that's for boys. FXRT is a man's bike.
There you go.
That's it.
Well, then there's like the grown man's bike, which is a Road Glide. So
that's right. Yes.
Didn't you ride one of those recently, or like?
I rode one in Sturgis.
That's right. I remember you telling me about it at the FXR show.
I rode a Road Glide. One of the buddies I was with at Sturgis, he needed me to go run an errand for him, and he's like, he was a little drunk, and he's like, just take my bike, man. You've been wanting to ride a bagger, so I did, and it was night and day difference compared to my little baby 80, right? My Evo.
What do you think about the comfort level? I mean, I know you barely rode the Road Glide.
I put 100 miles on it. Okay. Yeah, just 100. But it was Rapid City to Deadwood and back. Okay. The comfort was awesome. The riding position was ridiculous because it had those stock tiller kind of bars. Or
that's a good one.
Wheelbarrow. Wheelbarrow. It's just it's terrible.
Yeah.
I can't fully get into the riding experience of a motorcycle if my posture isn't right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know this. You all about T-bars and risers and such. To have your hands, you know, at a nice position, your hands are like roughly shoulder height, and you're not in this goofy grandpa Sunday morning cruising
it's like
position.
Quick to wave.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't. But anyway, the power was amazing, and it was bone stock. It was whatever's in a.
It's hard to ride.
glide.
It's hard to ride it super like bone stock with like I said, the bars in the seat are kind of like those first things that you change on a bike to give you like your feel. You know what I mean? And I know what you mean. It's really hard to get used to that because you feel like you're riding like a demo bike. You know, like you feel like you're going to the dealership. And
it's totally like, uncool. It's the most uncool feeling in the world.
Yeah.
And it has to move you. It has to do something for you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we'd all like to pretend that we don't care about how it looks and it's just all about the comfort and all that. But if I'm in a goofy position and I don't care how cool the paint job is or how cool this bike is supposedly is, it does nothing for me.
It doesn't,
No.
Man,
absolutely.
You know, because I got my buddy Aaron Coit, you know, cut me a good deal on this 88 FXR that I got. And I rode it to bike night last night. And I rode it back from Carrollton, you know, north of Dallas Monday night. And, I mean,
so you're riding dirty. That's what you're telling me?
Pretty much, yeah.
Did y'all pick that up? Okay, yeah.
Just mind you, like, I haven't ridden an FXR in quite a while, and I don't really remember the way my gold one rode, like how it felt riding it. And I don't know if it's just like this bike's a piece of shit or what.
But it's not a fairing bike, right?
No, it's no fairing bike, and it's not a piece of shit. It's an 88, and for the last FXR I had that I never even rode it, that it just sat here and I took it apart like a dumbass and then lost interest in it.
I remember it.
This one, you know, like I said, I'm making myself ride it, and I enjoy riding it. It's just when you're used to 2019 technology on Harley, which is more like 1997 technology on a Harley.
There's a certain level of refinement with these newer bikes. It's unquestionable.
And so, like I'm fortunately I still remembered how to fuck with a carburetor and stuff like that. But you know, there's vibrations that I don't really know. They're not the kind of vibrations that if you had them on my Road Glide, I would know exactly where they came from. So I'm having to kind of relearn the feel, the soul of this bike more or less.
Yeah.
And so
some of that character.
Yeah, and I'm gonna build this bike. I'm keeping it. Like I'm planning on keeping it for at least a year. You know what I mean? So, but I don't know. I know that I'm gonna end up doing a frame off just for the cleanliness of it, you know. But the motor's all chipped up, like all the black's coming off.
Drives me nuts.
I can't.
The coatings back then, they hadn't figured out
the black.
They did not.
Yeah, it just falls.
It wasn't until the '90s that they got it right.
Yeah.
Most of the FXRs that have any kind of black on them just look like garbage.
Yeah, it's almost
unless
like you'd
you
rather
found somebody
just
that just freaking rattle canned it. It's just
and I can't do that, man. I would rather.
There's no way.
Like I said, I've Cerakoted the last couple of full builds I've done, like my Dyna, the FXR, and my older bagger before that. So it's like, if anything, I would take it apart and just Cerakote everything, you know. But I don't know, like.
So you're not staying like in the period or anything.
Man, I'm not into that shit, man.
Yeah.
Like I was gonna ask you that when we get talking about your next build, but like, I'm just not into stock paint, man. Like if it ain't stock original, like I get like not taking away the stock paint, like repainting over it, which I've done some murderous things on some FXR 10s before that I
wasn't it a Liberty edition?
A Liberty one that I hate myself now for it. You know what I mean? And I broke the emblems when they came off.
Oh God.
But for the most part, man, like I just don't. To me, no matter how clean it is, it still looks like somebody else's bike. And so for me as a painter, it's like I want this to look like my bike. You know,
I get it.
And
what's your brand? You're representing your brand every time you ride that bike somewhere.
Exactly. So on this one,
it is what it is.
I'm doing a simple paint job. It's gonna be flames.
Really?
Yeah. They're so hot right now. You know what I mean?
They are so hot.
Yeah. But no, I've been so with our champagne flake, which is a color I really like, and then I did a helmet for my wife, which was a champagne flake with black flames and a purple pinstripe. So I'm staying to my nature of
you like the purple
in every bike.
Sure.
simple flame job. I just got to figure out because like the tank is this size, the side covers are this size, and then you got a quarter fairing that's this size, so you can't necessarily do the same size.
Oh, you have a quarter
flames.
fairing?
Yeah, I got to have some kind of fairing
I
on it.
love a quarter fairing.
I love the way it looks. I was telling Sax, I've never had a quarter fairing bike, and I'm pretty stoked. There's this FXR. I don't know who the guy is or whatever to reference it, but I've referenced it a million times. He had a Liberty Edition FXR lowrider, and he had a quarter fairing on it, and it was just like the stance of this bike was just perfect, man. And I've always had that in my head that that's the look that I want because of that Liberty Edition bike. That
I'm sure Mike knows.
He's corrected me a time or two, but I just can't. It's deep in my phone in a screenshot somewhere, but I don't know where. But yeah, I love that bike, man. It's that look that I like, you know, and a quarter fairing up front, the right size bars.
Stance.
Yeah.
Stance is everything.
That's what, you know, you said something earlier about like at some point this thing just spoke to you, and that's the same thing. I think that's for a lot of people. Like I hated the Archie fairing when it first started becoming. Now it was already popular, but when it started becoming popular to like when I started seeing it a lot because I started following the shit, I was like, that's an ugly fucking fairing. I don't know why people are putting that shit on there. And then
finally clicks.
One day you just see the angle, or you see a bike that's done right, and you're just like, man, like that thing is badass. And then you can never unsee it. You know what I mean?
didn't like it at first either.
No. It has to be in the right context too. Like you're saying, you've seen it from a certain angle that speaks to you, or maybe I've seen some that have like aftermarket paint jobs, and fairing does nothing for me. I mean, the shape's still nice, but when it's all tied in together and the paint is right, it's a beautiful thing.
Man, like I've never been a fan of police bags either. Still not. I just not my thing.
They're small too, man.
They're super small. They just, you know, they don't. I don't know. Like I can appreciate a nice RP done right or just done nice. Like there's, I don't know if it's still as popular as it was like a year ago, but there was like this uprising of FXRPs. It was just everybody was building these. You know, they had the light bars on them still with the police lights and shit. They were going hard on that stuff.
Freaking CB and all that stuff. Yeah,
and I mean it's cool.
They were going crazy with RPs last year.
Yeah, it was last year,
and
right?
The year before too. It was everywhere.
Yeah, everybody was doing that shit,
But again, are people just hopping on a trend because they know it's popular, or do they really, really dig them?
Well, it's really hard to speak for them because I know that certain guys in it, like Chris Harry and those guys, like they're all into.
Oh, I don't question those guys' motivation. I'm talking about the followers.
Yeah, but there's always going to be that, man. Like there's every scene's going to have those guys. I mean, I was a follower into something.
That's true.
You know, so it's like
you got to learn somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with being the guy that was that saw an FXR or a performance bagger or sporty and fell in love with that scene and has nothing to do with it. I mean, everybody wants to be the guy that came out of the womb wearing Dickies and flannels, but let's be real. A lot of us just started wearing the shit when it became cool. You know what I mean? So it's, you know, like, I don't know. I think that kind of narrative is kind of a hard thing to place on somebody because we're always being influenced or inspired by somebody else and coming into things that we're not really used to. That's the whole...
We're evolving.
That's the whole point of evolution, like growing as a man or a woman or whatever, you know?
Yeah, because if we wouldn't evolve, then I'd still be building kickstart, jockey shift, choppers.
And there's something romantically awesome and cool about that. You know, like, oh, yeah, this dude, like, let his life go in the dirt to stay true to who he was. And it's like, awesome, man. Like, well, I'm a...
Yeah. I'll be me.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll be doing me over here.
A lot of people, you know, that's one of the, I'm trying not to do that anymore, is like a lot of people, because I don't know a lot of people. You know what I mean? Some people that I've ran into, they do really like that. They like that idea of like someone being that struggling artist or that struggling builder.
Sure.
It's like they want to follow them until they become mainstream, and then they're like, oh, you're not who you used to be, or you sold out, or don't forget where you came from, all that shit. It's like
people who used to listen to the Black Keys when they first came out, and then they got super huge, and they sold out. Yeah,
it's like, you want me to just be broke forever?
The music's good. What can I say? I like it. I don't, whatever. It is what it is. So
I love them, but like I said, that's the thing that sucks is that But I think just like we were talking about for the whole man, you doing the 39 millimeter, it's just those things that people,
Yeah.
you know, like they got to chime in with something on a
That's
Facebook
true.
thing or in a bike night somewhere.
But listen, technically speaking, they're right. A 39 millimeter is going to perform better, right? It's a bigger
Yeah.
diameter tube. It's stiffer. It's not going to have as much fork flex. I get it. But
Yeah.
for me, there's something about that nostalgic look to everything. Dude, I kept all those air suspension components on my bike. They're not hooked up or anything. But for the look,
Yeah.
anybody can take it off and
I've
throw
heard
it.
that it's not that bad. The air suspension was.
It's
Did you
very
try it?
Yeah, and I mean, if
took
you
that-
have that little accumulator
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
underneath the bottom triple tree, I still had all that, but it wasn't holding air properly. So eventually, you start losing air pressure, and the
Okay.
ride becomes more and more spongy.
What about, didn't it come with the enclosed chain on
Did.
that?
It
Took
did.
that
I don't
shot?
have it
Oh, you
because
didn't?
the guy I bought it from, when I got it, it was already gone.
Yeah.
So I was okay with that. I mean, the enclosed chain is kind of goofy, but I understand it works really well. I mean, you're keeping your chain away from the elements, and it's got a steady oil drip on it. It rarely needs adjusting, evidently, from what I
Yeah.
hear.
I would just hate to have to pull, like, the change a tire on that goddamn
Can
thing.
you imagine? That whole rubber boot
Yeah.
system. I mean, there's a reason they got rid of it, right?
Yeah.
So it didn't bother me to get rid of it. But, going back to the whole 35 millimeter discussion or whatever, I've been troubleshooting a suspension problem on my RT, that 84 RT. So I have the stock forks. I put progressively wound springs in them from Patriot. I put I machined some preload spacers to even stiffen up the preload a little bit more. I still have stock shocks on the rear because I was a purist. It was the stock air shocks, right, with the little common little Schrader valve under the seat. And I would get into this situation where if I'm riding aggressively in a sweeper, where if I encounter something that upsets the suspension mid-corner, that back end starts bouncing and then it starts manifesting in the front. So I was thinking, oh man, what is wrong with my front end? I tried some other shocks on the rear. They're also stock. They probably cost the factory $11 a piece to make. I mean, they're still.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wasn't going to start throwing a bunch of money trying to chase it down. So I still have the issue, even though I went from the stock air shocks to the FXRS shocks. Just the regular chrome shocks that were stock. I still have the issue, and I think it could be solved by upgrading the rear shocks. But right now, I'm focused on other
It's
things.
a tough thing to chase, man, because I get it occasionally on my bagger. It's full Olins and everything, but
right.
It could be neck bearings, it could be the neck too loose, it could be motor mounts, it could be the tire pressure.
Tire pressure too. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that put you in that back and forth wobble. And it's really hard to chase because, like I said, my suspension is dialed to me.
Yeah.
My weight and that type of shit. But, when I went to Sturgis, I had a huge wobble issue, and it ended up being the tour pack was on my bike. And that was putting a different downforce, because even when I didn't have anything in the tour pack, it wasn't like it was loaded down. It was just emptied.
Yeah.
I would still get it. So I don't know if it was
like an aerodynamic upset.
Yeah, because, that's what happens on a lot of Dynas, too, is that you put like a quarter fairing or a T-Sport fairing, it causes the front end to lift. It actually, air gets under it, and it lifts some of the weight off of it, and it causes a lighter front end, which helps cause a wobble.
I could see that.
Yeah. And so that's the same thing that happens on quarter fairings and stuff like that.
So for me, I'm thinking part of the problem has simply got to be that I have no valving on that bike. There's no adjustable rebound or anything like that. It's just a cheap shock in the front, and it's just some progressive springs.
Well, what's holding you back from really going, and not necessarily going full Olins, but just like stepping up to maybe an entry level?
I've thought about it, and honestly, because I've dove into this new project, I've kind of just put that other stuff on the back burner since I'm spending money on a new build. So I'll eventually come around and experiment. Even Mike told me, he says, "Man, I've got some Batubo." Chrome Batubos. He said you can try and experiment with those. They're kind of on the entry level side. I mean, they're really beautifully made. They're all chromed out. But he said you can try those, see if it
Yeah, it works.
Yeah, because I mean, I will tell you, like riding my bike in Sturgis, and I mean, you've been to Sturgis, you know, when you leave Deadwood and head back towards Sturgis, that is an awesome rip.
Yeah.
It is amazing. And there are some sweepers in there where I was riding as aggressively as I could, and let me tell you, son, I had some pucker moments. When that back end started dancing, and I'm riding at my limit, and then you start kind of veering off into the other lane, and whoo.
That rip is hard not to go all in.
It's the best.
That one of those last, like if you're leaving Deadwood going into Sturgis, one of the last corners is kind of like that quick hairpin, like coming around that edge. And, man, I love that ride.
Awesome is Sturgis, though, man.
It is. It's the best.
This is my second time going.
Yeah.
I had went. So this was the 80th, right? Yeah. I went for the 75th 5 years before. That was my first time. And
you know,
it was
kind of like a side note on it. Like Sturgis is like, so many people I know are gearing up, and it's cool if you have the vacation to do it. They're all like, "Oh, we're going to Daytona, and I'm like, "All right, motherfucker." And then you use all your vacation up, and you can't go to like a real bike rally that has real riding and real things going on.
Yeah.
It's like,
what's the appeal of Daytona?
It's like the first chance for all the Northerners that haven't had a chance to go ride their bikes anytime.
Is it March?
Yeah. Okay. So it's like
that explains.
And it's still kind of cold and kind of shut down up in the Northeast and you know above Interstate 40 in a lot of states. So it's kind of like that first like light for them to go and have fun and
let's go.
And I think that they kind of jump the gun sometimes and like only have enough vacation for that trip. And so, you know, and I get it. You know, I'm just talking shit, but you know, it's at the same time like. You should probably save it for a better event. Yeah. Or even the camp out is a better event than the route than the Daytona. In my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, for me, for Sturgis is, I the only reason that I can go so easily is because one of my best friends from college, he married a girl from Rapid City, and her family still has a house there. So I've got completely free room and board in a nice house in Rapid City. And they're cooking every night, every morning. It's so amazing. It's like, but anyway,
I've been stuck on that because you know with our big group of friends, it's kind of been created through this bike night, and then now the camp out, and how it's turned into like this nationwide group of friends. The camping there has made it to where they can all come and kind of get a little bit of that fast life camp out vibe in Sturgis. You know what I'm saying? But back in the day when I was in my bike club, we would rent we'd be in Hill City and we would rent a big cabin for the whole club. And I love that too because it was a little bit more intimate. Like we had our own hot tub and beer and fireplace. It was like you could escape that bike rally and come back and, you know, kind of have a little bit of just you and your closer friends space, which I would enjoy that. But I also enjoy seeing like all these other guys come out and finally get to experience the fun that we all kind of have together. But
and I've heard you talk at length about this before. Like you enjoy introducing people to experiences, right?
Yeah,
like, man, this was so awesome. I want to show it. I want to show my buddies. Y'all come.
Yeah, it's a much more rewarding thing. Yeah. You know, like I said, the cabin, all that shit's fun, but you can't fit 40 dudes in a cabin. You know what I mean?
And back to the whole vacation day thing. For us and for the buddy that I go up there with, we only have X amount of days off. So I have absolutely no shame in like not riding to Sturgis and trailering because like for him and I, we take turns driving and we whip that. I mean, we knock that trip quick, out so fast and we arrive in Sturgis fresh. And I do like a pretty good amount of riding in Sturgis while I'm there. Like I rode 1,200 miles while I was at Sturgis for just a few days, whereas you guys did a ton more riding for the journey. Well, but while you're there, you're doing a lot more partying and stuff, and I'm just all over the Black Hills every day. So
the reason I try to push people to ride there is simply for the fact of like just making it more of an experience, right? Of
course.
You find your buddies and you jump on a bike together and you ride to Sturgis. It's a much different dynamic.
For sure.
And not that you're not a guy that rode to Sturgis is going to enjoy Sturgis more than you that trailered. It's just
It's more of an appreciation,
Yeah,
right?
it's like,
you,
man, I
you paid
fucking
your dues.
yeah.
You did it. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
dude, the first time I ever went to first time I ever went to Sturgis, we trailered as well. I didn't know that I would even want to ride to it, but that's when I was starting to fall in love with traveling on bikes. So what I try to do is I try to push people to try the shit. You know what I mean? If you only have a certain amount of time off and you got a trailer, you know, just it's fine.
Because
you know what I mean?
people like we still have to make time for family vacations. Like I still take 2 other vacations every year. I go on a ski trip every year in the winter, and then I take with my family, and then we also do we do a summer vacation as well. So there's in the summer you got a family vacation in the summer. I got Sturgis, and in the winter we're doing a ski trip. So I don't have weeks and weeks of time off.
And see, I promote selfishness.
Yes. Yes.
I'm an advocate for selfishness in relationships and life, and so far I'm still married, but it was funny because the day we were at the swap meet, right, over at Justin's doing the North Texas swap meet, I was like, I got my ass chewed out by my wife because I've been being selfish, and so we were gonna have a date night. Like we do a date night every Thursday night, but this was supposed to be specialer. You know, is that a word, specialer?
Sure, we'll go with it.
Yeah.
More special.
Yeah. And so we ended up, it was sushi. We went out, had a good time. But while we were sitting at the swap meet, fucking Chris Callen from CycleSword texted me, goes, "Hey man, you want to do a shop talk tonight?" I was like, is this the universe testing me right now? Because I was going to cancel on my wife to do the shop talk thing, and I had to fucking bite the bullet and go, you know what, man, I'm super honored, but we're going to have to reschedule it or give me some time so I can, you know, schedule all that shit. So, but it was fun, man. Me and my wife ended up going to dinner, and then we came back here and shot photos, and I really enjoy the photos that I ended up getting of her. So
speaking
cool.
of which, man, your skills have definitely become noticeably better. I mean, it's undeniable.
Between the, you know, like, not to take this to photography, but between Tim O'Keefe and my buddy, Not Stock Photo, John Jackson.
Oh, yeah. I know John.
Two completely different styles of shooting that I think is because they're so different spectrums that I love their style so much that it's kind of like, all right, well, I'm going to put their style together, and then that's going to be me, you know? But, you know, it's just one of those things,
They're both
man.
super, super talented.
Yeah.
Insanely talented.
I think I was telling you yesterday, Sax, all my hobbies still play into what we do for a living. So,
of course,
you know, it's easy to get good at photography when every day I get to shoot something, whether it's a helmet we just finished, a bike I finished, or just something around the shop. So it's like I pick it up a lot more than.
Let me give you some advice. You're still going to have to do vacations with just you and the wife that have nothing to do with bikes. You're going to be thinking about them the whole time.
We're doing that this weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
no, I'm talking vacations.
Yeah.
You going on a trip?
Well, it's like a small one, but
okay. All right.
We're trying to do more of that stuff, man. But, you know, I want to do that shit. You know, like I really want to go out of town. And me and my wife loved doing, like, the photography thing, something that she enjoys with me, you know, wherever we're going to take pictures of shit, whatever. But, like, I have a hard time checking out. You know what I mean? So, you know, I can imagine myself going to Mexico for a week and just having an anxiety attack.
You'd be miserable. I can already tell.
You know,
you're kind of like a type A personality, right? You like to be in control, and you like doing your things, and it's hard. Like you said, the selfishness. It's hard to give up and put other people's needs first.
Yeah, because you know, like I said, I have a whole bag of excuses if you want some of them. So no, it's something we're all learning, man. I think that as I get older, like as I've gotten, you know, just growing and getting a little bit more financially stable, it's allowing me to take off time without feeling like I'm going to be in a bad situation when I come back. Because I don't
making money.
I've never had vacation. You know what I mean? I've never had health, dental, all that shit that you know, a lot of people that have normal jobs have. So for me to take a 2-week vacation off, it's costing me those 2 weeks plus it's 2 weeks out of work.
It's 2 weeks of missed income.
Yeah, so it ends up
you're not getting paid like I am while I'm on vacation. That's a big difference. So you're double.
Yeah, so it ends up being like it kind of comes out to about 6 weeks of like financial turmoil to try to get it solved. And you have to make more money on this end to get it done or save up or things like that. So it ends up.
But when you come back from that vacation, you're in like hustle mode.
Yeah,
let's make up.
That's why I like
the lost income.
in the same sense, it's kind of not to be super hypocritical, but when I do a bike trip, that for some reason it always helps everything that we do on this platform, the podcast, the Instagram, the social media, the growing of our brand when we ride across country and do that shit. It just helps us. So it's like, even though I am on vacation and I'm enjoying it, it's still a type of work that's funneling something back into the thing.
How do you think it's helping? Like, you're meeting new people, you're networking?
Well, yeah, networking and showing, like I said, we were joking about Instagram, but Instagram is like my workplace. When that's where all my work comes from. That's where all my income comes from. So checking out of notifications is almost like going to work and telling your boss to fuck off. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I make my money at. So feeding into that is difficult, or it's not difficult whenever you're on a bike trip, because everything you're doing is content to put on the thing, which gets you more exposure, which helps you sell what you do more. You know what I mean?
But at the same time, you're still only one person. You can only get so much more business. Well, I mean, you got Saxon working now, so you can't take on infinitely more business.
Well, what you strive for is you strive for a better paying business. You know what I mean? So
higher caliber.
Yeah. So you're pushing. Yes, if I had a $500 paint job on a helmet, there would be walls and rows of helmets out there to be painted, but you can't. I just can't afford to do that and put out the kind of quality that I want and the type of designs that I do. There's no way I could do that and provide that for that kind of price, even with 5 dudes working here.
It's a trade-off, right? It's a balance.
So
you
do
find
less
happy medium.
Yeah, you do. It's like, would you rather build 10 bikes a year or 2 badass ones or 1 badass one? It's like when you're only doing a smaller amount of work, you get to put more of you in that job, and that job ends up being a better representation of your, maybe that's the wrong word, but legacy as a painter or builder or whatever.
Oh, it's a legacy. This stuff is, the way I look at it is everything that you post, and we try to tell this to, I have a daughter who's 10 years old. She's not on the internet, but we're trying to prime her for when the day comes when she will have her own accounts. You need to understand that everything you post is your permanent record. Yeah. Nothing goes away, especially like for me, somebody who works in technology. I understand this very clearly. Yeah. So even when we're dead and gone, you don't know in decades and decades from now how many people are going to be geeking out on some of these photos that still exist somewhere.
Yeah, it's in some kind of
repository, and people will be influenced by what you're building as your legacy. So it matters. It really matters.
Exactly. And it's like, I never really thought about it like a legacy until I noticed how people geeked out about West Coast chopper parts. Like, oh man, I found this. Out over them. Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. So, maybe it's not good to think like this, but I've always man, it'd be crazy is if you're at some swap meet in America one day and there's one of our helmets that somebody had done. It's like, oh shit, is this a Fast Life helmet? 20 years from now, 30 years from now, and
it'll be on an episode of American Pickers.
That would be
with some new Mike and Frank.
Yeah, well, that's the idea. That's what you want your work to have, that kind of meaning, And so it's been a thing where I've also had to make it mean something to me before it can mean something to the customer. So by doing and the amount of time I put into the jobs we do, it's not just a job to me. It's like I'm literally, putting so much more of my life into these jobs. So when we were talking about, selling your bike and someone making changes, I shouldn't feel this way, but if someone sold a helmet that I made for them, it'd piss me off. It does piss me off. And I've only known of a couple people to do it. But it doesn't piss me off I don't want to be your friend anymore. I'm like, dude, why? That was for you. That was that conversation, that drawing, that time. It's all
that history,
all those texting back and forth. I'm in a new relationship every other day doing one of these helmets with somebody, and they cost a little bit of money. So I get the whole point. Oh man, I could, I need to pay my rent right now. I could sell this helmet and pay, help me out financially. That's, like I said, I get it, but it's fuck, man. I really wish, it's almost like I wish if you didn't want it, ask me. I might buy it back from you first,
For sure.
And then maybe if you get your shit together, you can buy it back.
Dude, I just had not to go too deep here, but I just had a thought about legacy. Even the fact that you are recording podcasts, right? You've almost done 200 episodes so far. Now you got video to accompany it. That's all part of your legacy. This will be part of my legacy.
Yeah.
What if one day my daughter is old and gray and she wants to remember what her daddy was like
Exactly.
in 2021? She's got video
dude,
and audio for it.
I was trying to do this with my grandfather before he passed. Not the video stuff, but just a simple sit down and record and just like listen to him tell me stories about his life.
I have thought about that so many times.
I wanted to, and it was opportunity where I could, but I couldn't keep my shit together to do it. You know what I mean? It's like just too choked
it's emotional.
up.
Oh, yeah. That's heavy.
It was going to be so emotional because I thought about doing it so long, but I never did it until I knew he was on his deathbed. And then I was like, there's no way I could do this now. You know what I mean?
And then you're left with regret. I wish I would have did it.
Exactly. Because think about it. Think when you're older, like nobody wants to hear your stupid Sturgis stories on your dumbass FXR dad, you know. But when you're gone, they want to hear that story. You know what I mean? And so when you, like you said about the video, the podcast, like, you know, that's the same pitch that when I was talking to Yaffe, I was like, man, I know you've done a million TV interviews, you've been on Biker Build Off, you've done everything there is under the sun, but you've always done it under a time limit with a director, and you've never had the opportunity to just tell your shit, your story with your own anything.
By the way, that was one of my most favorite
It is one of mine too.
episodes.
I loved it. You know,
I looked up. I still do.
Yeah.
When I was into choppers, man, I followed that guy's every move. I studied every build. Every time he was on like a biker, every biker build off. I don't care who it was. I was the dude taping that stuff on VHS and pausing it. I was such a nerd. I would geek out on all the stuff that's happening in the background.
Yeah.
What kind of English wheel was that?
Yeah.
Did you see that planishing hammer? Okay, now I know how he's doing it.
Exactly.
I'm a nerd. Anyway, I digress.
I know that's the same thing.
Nerddom.
That's called obsession. You know what I mean? And that's what allows people to get to your skill level. People like me to get to my skill level.
Sure.
Is all that extracurricular activity you put into your craft. You know, like trying to teach Saxon, here too. It's like, it's not. It'll happen over time, but it's like watching something grow. It just, you don't notice it. It just starts to click and starts to work. It's like, and trying to fast pace it and make it happen.
Steps.
Yeah. It's like, man, it's a slow progression, but it slowly starts happening. But what you can do, and I was telling him, I was like, if you think about like your job, like whatever you're doing, maybe it's painting or working in a shop or you're going to MMI or whatever. If you start thinking about it like that 10,000 hours rule, like how quickly can I put in, how quick can I get to 10,000 hours? Relatively thinking that, 10,000 hours of focused concentration on your job, you'll be professional at it. Well, you can't be the guy that's counting the clock down all day because first off, you're focused on that clock and not your job.
You're not hungry.
You're not hungry.
No.
You think that, it's like you got to be the dude that's willing to come back and you're not looking at the time to go home. You're like, hey, man, y'all want to just stay here a little later and knock this thing out too? Like I always said when I worked for Other Side Customs, I used to go hang out there on the weekends while they worked. I got off work and then I just come back up in nice clean clothes and be like, what's up, fags? You know what I mean? That way I could just still be around it. You know what I mean? It's like and you're always even if you're not doing it, you're just watching people doing it. You're absorbing it. It's almost like you're still putting in those 10,000 hours.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But you got to want it. It has to come from this desire that it's an unquenchable fire that I am going to learn this. I'm going to get good at it. Ain't nobody going to stop me at all.
I think that for like maybe Saxon and some of the people in my life that they don't know, I don't have any friends close to me that were around in my 20s. Right? So they didn't see friends. Yeah, they didn't see me whenever I didn't drink and I literally worked, for lack of a better term, every day of the week from 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. every day. Wow. So that was the time that I put in my time to grow to get here. And then social media became a thing, and I already had 10,000 hours in my craft that I start to show it, so it helps me out versus someone starting now. They see the party Jace, the ride across country Jace, the all this other shit. It's a much different perspective. They don't know the struggles that I had to get where I'm at, you know what I mean? And still, like, where I want to be later on, you know what I mean? So it's a tough one to kind of.
Are you still setting goals for yourself?
Dude, that's a huge one because I think about. I was talking to my mom the other day. I was taking her actually to go see Marcus up there at Linear.
Yeah.
And she's accumulated a nice 401k for herself. And so I was like, Mom, like, you want to travel or go anywhere? She's like, no, not really. I'm like, wow, like you're not. I wasn't like, I don't know the right words. I'm not looking at her. I'm not looking down on her. I'm just like, I'm literally amazed that she really has no goals. Her goal is just like, oh, well, another day, go to work, get off. I want a night. Like she wanted a newer car, which is what I was taking her to go get some stuff that Marcus done on the car for her. But
does it seem kind of empty? Like,
yeah, like I feel like the reason I'm so driven is because I keep making new goals. It's like when you stop making the goals, it's like that's when things become mundane. Or not saying you're not successful or you're not going to make a living, but like, what are you living for?
It's a good point. I mean, you have to have some kind of initiative or drive.
Yeah.
If you're just waking up every day and just going to hang out, watch TV, or scroll through social media,
hopefully
that's an empty
your
existence.
Sports team like fulfills your day. Like right. If the Cowboys don't win this weekend, I'm gonna have a bad week. You're gonna put that much. Yeah.
No.
I never understood.
Me neither.
And that's kind of like some of my closer friends from from my 20s were more into the sports thing, and they that's become their identity is like.
Well, you come from a sports background too, right? I mean, a lot of basketball.
Yeah.
Same here. A lot of basketball.
But I never was one to watch it. If I wasn't doing it, I didn't. Like I can watch a game that's important. Like I can watch a finals game.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna watch a fucking game 64 of the season. Like I don't give a shit about that. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It feels good to watch. Like I usually when the finals come around, baseball, anything, I'll watch those. I'll watch the Super Bowl. I'll watch some of those playoff games because I want to be like, I remember the time that LeBron went back to the Cavs and won. He beat who did he beat?
Don't even know.
Golden State, because Golden State had a perfect season, and LeBron went back to the Cavs and won that championship like a couple years ago. It was like 17 or 18 or something like that. So I'm glad I did that then, so I could have this conversation right now. This is fucking Inception, bro.
See, for me, it was like when Jordan retired.
Yeah, dude.
Lost all interest in basketball. And I'm talking retired as a Bull.
Yeah, not the bullshit wizard.
No, not interested. But that was like my only watching NBA basketball was like my sports thing. You got to remember
in the 90s though, man. Like it was like the most watching basketball in the 90s was a completely different ball game. Completely different. Like when Jordan went, I mean, the class of 96, which was like the best rookie class ever. I mean, you got Kobe.
Kobe
all those.
Rookie.
I mean, it was like 14 dudes stacked of like some
Kevin Garnett, I think, was in there.
Yeah. Iverson, I think, was there too, or was he a year after?
I don't remember.
Steve Nash, Ray Allen, Tracy McGrady. Like there was just nothing but solid like stars. And then I think what killed it for me was when the Spurs won all those championships because it was like watching the most boring basketball.
It was very boring basketball. Yeah. You had Tim Duncan.
Dudes were using
David
the backboard and shit. Like
it was very orthodox.
Yeah, it's like
textbook basketball.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't entertaining. I want to see someone get dunked on.
No.
But no, that's what I'm saying. Like it's just different, so I lost interest in it.
Did you finish or ever finish watching Last Dance?
Oh, dude, it was so good.
I watched the whole thing 3 times.
You did? I wouldn't mind watching. Dude, that people were talking so much shit about Jordan, saying he's, like, and I get it. Like, he comes off very dickish. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
But, dude,
results.
You have to be that way to get people around you to do better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this PC world where everybody wants you to be super nice and like, oh, good job. Like, no, but like, motherfucker, what's wrong with you? Get your shit together. Like, people need that kind of. Maybe it's a respect thing, right? Because if me and you really respect each other, and I came up to you and said, "Dude, what the fuck are you? What's going on?" You like, man, like, what? The first off, you might be mad at me, like, dude, why are you coming at me like that? Right. But then at the same time, it's like, dude, you fucking dropped this, blah blah blah. It's like, man, yeah, you're right, man. I did cause us to lose this or fuck this up or whatever. It makes you think about what you're doing and you change your fucking stuff. instead of a positive reinforcement, like, oh, I guess it's okay to fuck up.
No.
You know what I mean?
Nothing less than perfection was good enough for him. You know, he demanded everything out of his team. But the results speak.
Exactly.
You know, they speak for themselves. How many other players can say that they've have that many rings? You know, 6 championships.
Well, not so much just the rings, just the legacy that he built. You know, the dude became one of the most prominent. You know, other than boxers, he made the most money out of everything else. Everybody else, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
Floyd Mayweather fucked that up for everybody. So
with the money.
Oh yeah, that dude. There's this thing on YouTube. I don't mean to cut you off real quick. There's this thing on YouTube that I get wrapped up in, and it's like this timeline thing, where it'll be like a timeline of your favorite, or like NBA player, not NBA, like most highest paid athletes, most popular bands, or most selling records of all times. And it'll go from like 1960 to now, and it'll see the Beatles go high, and then Elvis go high, and then they fall back down, and then the Rolling Stones come along, and you just get like, all right, 94. Who's killing it in 94? And you just see these bands that almost like,
that's when I graduated.
You don't realize, you don't realize how popular, like, say Star Wars is still, the first Star Wars is still one of the most highest ranked selling movies of all time.
All right.
It's in the top 5 still, compared to, like, I think Avatar and Avengers Endgame is like up there. But I mean, I it's a bad, it's a really bad representation of that. But dude, it'll get you They have one for everything. Highest paid athletes. I watched one on most followers on Instagram. They had a whole video.
I'm sure some Kardashians.
It was Kardashian, but
Taylor Swift or
some fucking soccer player dude has the most followers. Ronaldo, yeah. 250 million.
I believe it. Yeah. Soccer's worldwide. It's not really celebrated here all that much.
Yeah.
But to the basketball point, you know, I think the not just basketball, but society today as a whole celebrates a lot of different values that didn't really matter back then, like materialism and, you know, how much money you're making and all that sort of thing. Whereas you're talking about like in the 90s basketball era, to me it seemed more of a passion or a hunger for championships. I don't really, when I watch basketball today, which is few and far between, I don't feel anything for it. I feel like I'm watching spoiled brats play. And maybe that's because I'm getting older. I don't know. I'll be 45 in a couple of months. But
think about it like this too. Think about the fact that like in the 90s, basketball was just becoming a very, very prominent sport in the world of sports.
Oh yeah.
If you think about it, the AMA in the 70s, not AMA, the ABA, American Basketball Association, was it was NBA and ABA, And so if you think about it from that perspective, like the 80s was like the rookie year, and then the 90s was sophomore year. You know what I mean?
To me, it's golden era for basketball.
They were figuring out it just became a very, very popular sport, and then you had guys like Jordan and Magic Johnson and the rivalry with Bird and Johnson going on. Like there was just so much things going on.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I think that we're so used to everything in the world being the way it is that we don't realize that most of the shit that we enjoy and have is less than 100 years old, which is not that long in the history of man.
For sure.
So,
yeah.
You know, I could see basketball going away as a whole. Like what? Yeah. I think that, put it like this, like, have you noticed like this whole, and this is a motorcycle podcast, by the way. Do you like, I've been watching a lot of stuff as to why we're so dependent on China. Not just the fact that they make stuff, but the fact that they have so many citizens that our entertainment is a bigger commodity to them than us. They have billions of citizens over there that consume basketball. So NBA is more concerned about that listener and viewership over ours, because that's where all their income is coming from now. You know what I mean?
Numbers game.
It is. Same thing with movies and entertainment. That's why everybody's kind of leaning China, because
that's gross.
It's gross.
I don't like the way that makes me feel.
Yeah.
I don't like this at all.
Because we don't have enough. It's the same thing that's going to happen with why do you think Harley's looking at Asian markets? Like, how do we get a part of this? Well, as much as I am America, everything, we don't have enough people to buy enough things that's going to help that company stay in business. So they have to look at these markets and figure out how to make something for them to sell to them so they can stay in the competing race of business.
I think this is a good segue back into motorcycles. You did a good job
I pulled that. Yeah.
Way to go. Reel it back in. I think Harley in the past few years, I mean, I know. It seems like they're struggling to see what's going to stick. They're throwing things at the wall to see what's going to stick with the younger demographic. Mm-hmm. The baby boomers are dying off. The demographic that kept Harley alive for decades, that appreciated everything nostalgic, which doesn't necessarily translate to the younger crowd nowadays, who has probably very little in common with Grandpa in the style of bike that he rides. So it seems like Harley's, trying to come out with different ideas to introduce new riders into the industry. Mm-hmm. They've done a few things over the years that, like just the Street series, right? The Streets 500 and 750, which I think got canned. They did the launch yesterday, right? The virtual.
Was it yesterday?
Yeah, so it's like not many. It was this virtual launch, but not many people were even aware.
Well, yeah, at the same time, but everybody was like thinking they were going to come out with something new. I was like, you do know that nobody worked last year, right?
Right.
Like,
so this year is very different.
They're just new paint schemes and maybe a couple little tricks here and there, but nothing.
Although I think they did release the Pan America.
I don't know if it's
official, or at least it was part of the launch, from what I understand.
I thought it wasn't getting released till March.
Well, what I'm saying is it's taken that next step, right? And it's official. We will be bringing this motorcycle into production, and I personally feel that that's a perfect example of Harley just trying something different, completely diverting away from their heritage.
It makes sense. I mean,
I don't know, man. I mean, it's such a far cry from from your roots.
It is.
I don't know how I feel about that. Like, if it doesn't have push rods, is it a Harley? The V-Rod went the way of the Dodo. Mm-hmm. The Street and that was pure garbage bikes, right? That was all overhead cam bikes, no push rods. So to me, it's like, yes, I understand that there are mechanical advantages of having an overhead cam design versus a push rod design, but it doesn't matter. You still have to stick to your lineage and your roots to a certain degree. Maybe they can only develop that platform to a certain extent.
I think that the only way that, in my really dumbass knowledge of business, the only way they would be able to stay more or less evolving, if you will, is to have a very, very small business to where they only have to produce a number of bikes every year. And then, of course, if it's a smaller business, it becomes like the helmet situation, where those bikes are just going to become more expensive, to where now we're going to be paying $40,000 for a special and $70,000 for a CVO, but there's only going to be, $5,000 in production every year.
But realistically, to harp on the Pan America deal, I mean, do you honestly think that Harley's going to be able to compete with people in that space who have been in there for decades and who dominate, like a KTM or a Husky? Or
Husky's a tool company.
I don't see how they're honestly going to be able to compete, because we associate. Yeah. We have certain associations and prejudices, whether we admit it or not. Mm-hmm. And when we think of Harley, we don't think of an adventure bike. And it's going to be expensive. It's going to be probably way more expensive because it's made in America.
I mean, they're going to have a hard time to compete with the BMW and the KTMs, basically. So a fully decked out BMW adventure bike with the 7-gallon tank and all the panniers on it is going to run you about $26,000. That's everything BMW has. That's the CVO of the BMW. Right. It could be a little bit more. This was like 2 year ago prices. Maybe it's 27, 28 now. I don't know.
Yeah.
More importantly, and I've said this before, I said this in a podcast with Mike when they first released the photos of that bike. The thing is that BMW, Honda, KTM, they have stores set up all over the world to handle the people that are traveling internationally on these bikes. Mm-hmm. So if you are riding through Brazil, there's a BMW store there that is there to cater to the type of riding you're doing. Mm-hmm. Harley has T-shirt stores all over the world.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I mean? You go to Tombstone, there's a T-shirt kiosk there. You're not getting your bike work done there. You know what I mean? So that's the network that maybe they didn't really. I haven't seen anything. I don't think that they're planning it because they're hoping that their dealerships are going to be that thing. But the problem is those dealerships are only in areas where there's a certain amount of people, which is the same thing with the BMW. But you know, when you go out west, like there's 200-300 miles before you hit another dealership. Versus here, there's 7 of them in Dallas. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a hard time for me to see how they're going to like create the network that, like I said, BMW, Honda, these people have worldwide networks of being able to make their bikes travelable around the world, you know, and most people are buying venture bikes to do adventure shit. Yeah. You know?
Well, we'll have to talk again in a couple of years and see how it went, you know, only time will tell if these kind of designs and models are going to work for Harley.
What I think their biggest issue is, and this is, they're not writing anything out, right? Like it seems like they either have or they're going to pull that live wire plug soon.
You mean like they jump ship?
Yeah, they you know, quick? I think that so many people, they think that like investing in the future is investing now and expecting return tomorrow, right? And the way you invest in your future is to lay ground, like foundation work and groundwork so that it can grow on, right? Mm-hmm. When I left the big wheel bagger world, or I stopped doing those bikes and started focus on a very unpopular bike in this part of the country, we had to lay groundwork and start to lay an infrastructure of things for people to do and come together so that we could build this business up, right? Which is essentially what we did not that they weren't around, but we brought them together with bike nights and campouts and all this shit. And now we've built our customer base and our world up, right? Mm-hmm. All the dealerships here in town, the reason I've never been able to work with them is because they want us to do a bike night, but they expect everybody's going to come buy a bagger from them tomorrow. It's like, it don't work that way. You have to become the dealership that's a part of this scene, and that's something you do over time. It's not a one investment thing, and then it's not like I buy this 50 sack or whatever the fuck they're called, and then you take it down the street and sell it, and I get my money back. It don't work that way.
So you're thinking like the dealerships need to come on board and become more performance oriented rather than
everybody has to, you know, because the thing is
like Moonshine Harley.
Yeah, for sure.
Those
exactly.
Guys they're on. I love their YouTube channel, but
see, all the dudes here, like all these shows here, like what happens is this isn't the biggest scene here still. It is the big wheel style stuff. And I'm not saying don't cater to that market anymore, but you have to start building a new audience and a new foundation. Even if the main audience you have is you're still doing stuff for them, but you still have to invest over here so that you get the circle of life going where, okay, now this one's starting to phase out. Now this scene's now becoming the popular one. Everybody's wanting to get on it. And I want to be the dealership that knows what the fuck's going on because I have my ear to the ground. And we've been helping grow this scene in Dallas. None of them wanted to be a part of it. I had to go to fucking Milwaukee to get a goddamn motor. You know what I mean? That's here.
Sad. Yeah. It's really sad.
You know? So it's a lot of people don't want to invest. And you do get those moonshines and those kind of shops those dealerships that understand this simple philosophy of growing businesses or growing your market. Like we sell like a passion-based product or we ride a passion-based product from a dealership. You have to sell me on that. You got to make me want to ride this shit. All these hell yeah brother dudes that are riding ape hangers, they're 14 inches or 40 inches tall, whatever the fuck. They don't see these bikes in person. Therefore, they don't really know. They haven't
even been exposed to it, right?
Exactly. What we were talking about earlier, right? Yeah. The fairing, the this, the that. Like they haven't seen it enough to finally go, you know what, I like that. If you're only seeing it passing through Instagram once in a while, it's easy to hate it or on a Facebook platform. But when you're at a bike night and you know these other bikes start rolling up and you see them here and there, like man, you start to like the vibe and you start.
Oh, it punches you in the face. Yeah. Like, dang.
You have, in these dealerships here, they just don't work on. They want all this instant success, and it doesn't work that way, man.
How long do you think? I don't even know if this could even happen. How long for this kind of influence to trickle up to Harley, and then therefore be reflected in the models? I mean, Harley's always at least 5 years behind. I think everybody knows. I
mean, it's already kind of been reflected. I mean, realistically. The Lowrider S was a quick to market thing on the new Softails. even the standard, like I think some people in Harley that unfortunately are no longer there anymore, they saw what was going on and they did these quick to market things where they knew that we wanted a bagger, but we don't care about the radio and all that other bullshit. So they made the Street Glide standard or Letric Glide standard,
yeah,
a under $20,000 M8 bagger that doesn't have all the other shit you don't need. So if they would have did a Road Glide, they would have never sold another regular Road Glide ever because everybody would have just went that route. You know what I mean? So Harley gets
some
it.
people like having all the
True.
doodads and the
True.
tech.
I'm not. I hate to generalize that much on that, but
some people still like it.
the thing about performance is it's never gone away. It's just now the most popular thing, and so it brings us to like the arguments that we get in on. I don't really do it anymore, but people get in arguments on Facebook because everybody has a cam or has a set of brakes or whatever, and they automatically assume that their bike's a performance bagger. Well, there's just, it's a fast bagger. It's nice, but this is a little small sect of this bagger world that you kind of have to set your bike up a certain way to be kind of accepted in this. Like you can't build a fucking like a pro street style FXR and then walk around and say like, yes, this shit's OG, man. It's not. It doesn't really fit that standard of what that is,
Right.
So,
yeah, I question some of Harley's decisions. Like, this is something that has been bothering me for years.
mm-hmm.
Why in 2021 on God's green earth would you have any, and I mean any production motorcycle with a 240 millimeter rear tire?
Yeah.
Do you realize that was back in the chopper craze? We're talking, what, 05-ish?
Yeah. And it died in like 06.
It's been dead forever. Who on earth thinks that a 240, number one, looks good or is going to perform worth a crap? Mm-hmm. So the people that are making these styling decisions clearly are detached in a big way from the scene. Because I haven't seen bikes being built in the custom world with those size tires for at least 15 years.
Yeah. It really threw us all for a loop when they dropped that FDR or whatever the fuck it was called.
Well,
FXR.
that got nixed yesterday.
Yeah.
Big surprise. It's a bike with an identity crisis.
Yeah.
It didn't know if it wanted to be a canyon carver, a drag bike.
Well, the worst part was
bike. It was terrible.
When they came out with that bike, the worst part was how you walk into a dealership and these guys were like, these dealerships were trying to sell you on the performance of this bike. And you're like, bro, you do know
forward
that
controls?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You do know that we're all on Facebook, right? And we all know what the performance is now. So it's like.
Well, it was an FXR.
DR.
Yeah. In my mind, it's the Pontiac Aztec of Harley Davidson's.
Oh, Breaking Bad.
It was unbelievable. And I mean, when you've got a bike that you're saying is meant to be high performance and you've got a super wide tire, you've added more rake to the front end. And you've got forward controls. It's with a sport bike kind of tail section.
Yeah.
What are y'all smoking in Milwaukee?
Yeah.
No.
Some dude walks in and the board meeting goes, hear me out. They don't know what they want yet. Let's bring it back out. You know what I mean? Man, dude, I get it.
Terrible. But yet they still make a fat boy. It's got the big fat rear tire. It would be a lot more classy with a 180 or a 200. It would be way more classy. Why would any production bike have a tire, a rear tire bigger than a 200?
Yeah.
Even sport bikes, the best handling bikes on the planet, have 190s and 200s. They don't go 240. You don't see Marc Marquez winning MotoGP championships with a big 240 on the rear.
So I used to do those 240 kits and 300 kits, and that was just for flexing.
Yeah, for sure. I get it.
You know what I mean? But
that
was
you've
also
evolved since then. You know better, right?
Yeah, okay. But it's like at that point too, like you get to a point where that you want to do different things on bikes, and that's kind of what you did. What happened with you switching from the choppers and kind of coming to this? It's like you evolve and you get new ideas, and you want to experience new things on motorcycles, and sometimes you got to change the vessel to get those new experiences.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But stylistically, Harley Davidson is not setting the standard. They're trying to follow the trends, and they're doing so years behind the trend. I think you've talked about this before, like when Sons of Anarchy was on TV. Obviously, that style of bike just went through the roof. Everybody wanted one. But Harley came with a Lowrider S after the dang show was off the air for years with the Dyna Lowrider S, right? Which kind of was in that same vein of the club style
Those
bike.
Dyna Lowriders still go for a lot of money right now.
Yeah, you see, but they're
16, 17,000.
You serious?
Yeah.
So why can't someone in styling come up with original
perfect
idea?
example, right? Everybody likes to throw shade on Sons of Anarchy. That thing literally kept Harley alive. It created a younger demographic,
Absolutely.
right? There are, if they really wanted to create a younger, they need to go to Hollywood or these places. They need to make it part of culture. Culture is what changes us, not corporations, right? So when Dr. Dre comes out with headphones as Dr. Dre, even though it had Monster or whoever the fuck was making them originally, it was the Dr. Dre headphone, and we saw Dr. Dre, and then every goddamn rapper on the planet, and then even like rock stars, everybody's wearing, I guess that's a new thing, is these kind of headphones.
Right.
It wasn't, so much like, there's only certain companies like maybe Apple or something can drop shit and we're just getting it. But because they marketed it that way, Harley needs to go back to the inspiring part of what it is. The reason why Fat Boys were popular is because of fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger and goddamn Terminator. It was those movies. How many movies from 1980 to 2000 were like, we got how many FXRs? We had the FXR in goddamn Pulp Fiction. We had an FXR in
Marlboro Man.
Harley
Davidson.
Then you had Brian Bosworth riding around Stone Colding on some kind of Softail. And then you look at like those bikes become popular in the 90s and into the 2000s.
Especially if a young person, a kid's watching that stuff.
Guess
That's
what happened?
Ingrained into his DNA.
Guess what happened in 2010? A Dyna was popular. And guess what we're still living in? The Dyna craze. It's like if you get it on TV, you get it in popular culture, it trickles down and makes us want to do this shit.
You're right. But when Harley, to me, the way it comes across to me is whenever they've had like advertising campaigns where they've reached out to celebrities, whether it's Momoa and all that, it doesn't feel authentic. I don't know how to describe it, but I think if Harley would just appeal to the demographic that kept them alive all these years, a working class, a working man, not everybody's got $30,000 or $40,000 to spend on a motorcycle. That's insane. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
If they could somehow, tie in back to reaching out to that core buyer, a core customer who kept them alive all these years. And I don't even know if that makes sense anymore because times have changed since then. But still, the working class still respects and appreciates. Well,
there's a new working class, and it's the ones like us that are still buying the bikes and riding them. But man, of all the times in the world, this has got to be the most common. I mean, think about all the other car companies, right? Ford's got a fucking electric Mustang or some shit. Like Ford.
Say what?
Ford's done some crazy shit too. Like a lot of people are automotive manufacturers are all struggling to figure out how to make their stuff appealing to
the woke demographic.
Not so much that, but more like what's being done overseas from Germany to Japan and all these other things. So I think to be a little bit on Harley's side, as I understand, it's probably every marketing tactic that you've ever had doesn't work anymore. And then there's no clear path as to how to market it, right? I would say, go market on the Fast Life podcast, but I'm gonna fuck up their shareholders real quick with the way I talk on this thing. So I'm not the guy for that, Sure. And the YouTube world is a good sect of like an area where people can market it. But YouTube is a very, very woke place now, right? Where you can't, you have to be a certain way for it to be corporate and this, that, and the other. So this little culture that we've created, not purposely, but just as a byproduct of everybody getting super offended and stuff, has made it to where working class people who don't give a shit about that kind of stuff now have to deal with, you know what I mean?
Have to do. Whereas the vast majority of people, like you're talking about the working class, we don't feel the same way as what's being shoved down our throats. And I've been doing a lot of reading the past few months on these kinds of topics, and I've posted some of these books that I've been reading on my stories. But like the most recent one was The Coddling of the American Mind by Jonathan Haidt, and it addresses this whole topic that we're talking about this this culture, not this culture, but the young people, this younger generation nowadays is the generation that was raised with helicopter parents who are more concerned about keeping their kids safe. So they're growing up within the bounds of safetyism, and it reflects everything that we see nowadays. It started back in the mid-'90s, and probably even before that, but the case that he makes in the book. Sorry to turn this into
I
an
understand.
Oprah book discussion, but book of the month. But the point that he makes is what he's calling like Generation Z or iGen, like iPhone, iGen, the generation that grew up as digital natives.
Yeah.
They're the group, they're the first generation that grew up with parents who were more concerned about safety than kids going out and playing and having real life experiences. So what you're seeing manifest today is a generation, you know, typically your college age demographic, who is the woke culture, people who are concerned with safetyism and your words are hurtful and I'm triggered, I need a safe space. These are the same people who think that they associate words that don't particularly align with their ideology to be violence. And that's why you see, like on college campuses, you're seeing protests of anything that doesn't align with what woke culture liberals think is the common ideology for the day. So
it's
that's
gotten,
what we're seeing.
So, you know, wrapping that into Harley, like that's why Harley didn't have a presence at Sturgis, because they didn't want, somewhere along the path, corporations felt like they had to, well, maybe it's the woke culture that made them have to pick a side or a stance on political things. And so, you know, Harley couldn't go to Sturgis because, and they couldn't even, none of their people that worked there for corporate were allowed to be in Sturgis.
Because they would be endorsing
exactly, and they could be called out and canceled because they went to a breeding ground for COVID.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, it sucks that now this because they decided to go walk that path. And you got to understand, Milwaukee is a very liberal city. You know what I mean? And I hate talking politics like that, but I understand that, like, it's just gotten so weird, and it's hard because your customer base is pretty much in the middle or a little bit towards the right, 90% of them.
For sure.
But you as a corporation are not allowed to be that way. You have to go woke or you get canceled.
That's right. It's the cancel culture that we live in nowadays, and everybody's so afraid
like
of being called out.
Whether they've made the right decisions here and there, you know, I can't imagine what it's like to be in their shoes. Let's just hope for the Harley God's sake that they are a little bit just like us, right? And they want to be, but then they have all this shit going on, because you understand, these aren't bikers that are in there working at Harley. These are kids that went to college for marketing, kids that went to college for design, kid that went to college to...
Yeah, but Jace, it's kids that went to college that grew up in the same generation and were influenced very heavily during those college years to lean more towards the left. I mean, you see that all the time. Kids who grow up with a certain set of values go into college and come out doing a complete 180 on everything that they knew is true up until yesterday.
It's influence, man. It's about where you go, especially in those years that you're kind of becoming who you're going to become. It's like when you're around, you know, ideas that are going to push you that direction. Dude, when I started hanging out with the chopper crowd, it made me who I am now. I was influenced to travel on my bike, camp on the ground, party the way we party. It made my life funner. You know what I mean? I'm sure if I hung out with you, I'd probably get smarter and be more in math.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it. These are good. It's a good idea.
4 + 4 is 8, right?
It is.
Yeah, you just add.
Yes. It is 8.
You know how to do fractions?
I do. I have an engineering degree.
There you go.
I'm all about math.
But you know what I mean? So it's like, it's about what you're around. And, you know, I'm trying to be, maybe, you know, like I said, the things that we do with all the shit we do at the shop and the brand, I'm trying to be that influence that helps you want to find passion for motorcycles. But, you know, I'm not perfect. Like I said, I have selfish tendencies when it comes to family and things like that. But trying to grow, you know.
I just wish that it wasn't so easy for the mob, for people calling out corporations, and I wish it wasn't so easy for a company to feel that influence, a corporation to give in to the will of the mob, saying, you know, you need to let a certain person go, or you need to embrace the values that we're pushing and shoving down your throat. That It's the same thing. It's absolutely no different than a parent giving in to a toddler who's losing their mind and throwing a fit, and the parent's going to come up behind and say, okay, baby, what do you want? What can we do to make you happy? Are you kidding me? The mob is the same way. And we see it every day.
You know,
every day.
In the same sense, I mean, it goes both ways, because I see the shit in Instagram chat room. I mean, Facebook chat rooms, FXR pages, performance bagger pages. I see the same, for lack of a better term, gay shit. You know, like you gotta form to the way we look at things. Like we talk about the performance bagger thing.
Oh, right.
You know,
right.
Or the FXR thing. You know, just everybody's so like. Dudes get mad butthurt when I tell them that their bike isn't a performance bagger. And they...
Well, maybe you need to stop trolling on these damn...
I don't. I'm an admin on all these pages. I did not ask to be, but I am. And I get hate mail left and right.
Oh, my God. What a waste of time.
It is. I don't even I had to tell a dude yesterday, I was like, look, man, I don't know why your post didn't get approved, but... You know, for the fact that you actually came and sent me a message and want to have a discussion, wasn't hostile, but he definitely put a couple periods at the end of it that gave me this vibe, like, yo, man, this dude wants to argue or some shit, you know? So,
well, social media brings out the worst in everybody. Having a Facebook account, if I wouldn't use Facebook Marketplace, I have absolutely no reason to be on Facebook. It's a huge waste of time.
It's the Walmart of things. Facebook, it's like just when you're ready to give up on it, they get Marketplace and it's better than Craigslist. I'm like, fuck, man.
I know. If it's that dang Marketplace keeping me latched to them.
I mean, dude, it feels so gross to get stuff on Craigslist nowadays.
Craigslist is that's like bottom barrel.
Yeah.
Bottom of the barrel. Just.
It's like maybe another year we can go on Craigslist and start finding deals again.
I don't know, man.
I just don't like all these platforms because even Facebook does it now and it annoys the hell out of me. It's like all these sponsored ads in there. Like I'm on Marketplace to look for your shit that you post, but yet, hey, get it now, shipped, blah blah blah. It's like, no, dude, like I'm looked in this 100-mile radius for FXR gas tanks. If there's none, say none. Don't give me other options from Norway or some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I think social media is so harmful. I mean, obviously, I think we've all seen the documentary by this point, right? The Social Dilemma.
Yeah.
I've been telling everybody don't have our best interests at heart by any means.
I think that one and watching that on Netflix that Andrew Schultz Saves America. Have you seen that yet?
Great. Yeah.
It's fucking awesome, man. It's funny, but it's like point, fact.
He's hitting you with a barrage of jokes, and they're all the kind that you're trying to pause and think about it, like, oh, that's so right. But bam, he's hitting you with another one right after it. He's just...
And he kind of like talks about everything. And I think, I mean, I could be wrong, but I think most of it is factual from what I heard on the Rogan podcast, that they went extensively through all that material to make sure that it was on point and they were, saying what actually took place, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I'm sure the fact checkers will go ahead and take care of that if anything was inaccurate. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody talking shit on there? Mm-hmm. What are they saying?
Say what? This is on like YouTube chat you're talking about?
So there's a live chat on there.
On YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody said that I suck. They really thought it was funny about they thought Aquaman was going to save Harley.
Yeah, that was a hard one, like when my buddy that worked there, who no longer does, when he told me that Aquaman was their saving grace, they actually were trying to get Post Malone too. So, and
does Post Malone even ride?
I don't think so.
I mean, I love his music.
He's got
does
tattoos.
He ride? He's got tattoos.
He speaks to the youth.
Yeah, okay, but how authentic is that? See, that's what I'm... It makes you question the motivation. Like, why are you... Who in the heck is even considering that as an option, getting Post Malone as a brand representative?
Yeah.
I don't associate Post with Harleys. I associate him with smoking a lot of dope, living in Utah, full of tattoos, lots of firearms, just a generally chill guy, but never seen him on a Harley.
Yeah. like I said, it has to go back to like more TV culture. It needs to. You need more of that. Maybe not Sons of Anarchy, more or less, or Mayans or whatever the fuck. They need just more motorcycles as a part of the normal culture of somebody in movies and TV shows. You know what I mean? And I think that bikers nowadays are way different than the bikers, the way we look, the way we act, the way we are. We're not like, I mean, not that what it was back in the 80s and 90s and shit was bad. I just think that we've all kind of turned into a different kind of crowd. Yeah. It's a lot more, I feel like we're a lot more palatable to normal people. You know what I mean? Like I don't have a wizard outfit that I wear to ride my bike. You know what I mean? Like I look like the other dude at the brunch that we're going to, or the coffee shop if you're into that.
Oh,
so
word. Yeah, I don't know. I hope they can listen. And I don't want any of this to come across as me saying that I anything other than I want this company to succeed.
Yeah, we all.
Can you imagine if Harley were to go under? I mean, that's the lifeblood. I don't.
No matter what, it's never going to go under. It would restructure. It would get smaller, but it's not too big to fail, but it's too big to go away. Somebody else will buy it and start it over and keep it running. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's always nice. No, I
you
really
get good paint schemes that way. AMA paint schemes are all the shit. So
yeah, I guess I really want them to succeed. I wish them the best, and I just but honestly, I'm saying all these things like I have a clue of what goes on behind the scenes and looking at the numbers. This is just bro science right here, right? We think we've got it all figured out. If Harley would just be listening to this podcast, then they would know. Listen, we're just looking in from the outside.
Dude, I don't even know how to do fractions, man. I can't fucking work.
Back to the fractions. God dang it. There's YouTube videos for this.
Yeah,
all right?
I know, but
take it easy.
I don't need it. It's just you're right, man. If they just made the bike for like put it like this, our small section of us, whether it's performance baggers, Dynas, FXRs, or even choppers, we don't outnumber the Hell Yeah Brothers if we times us close. Times 3.
It's not even close.
So, the fact that they even make a lowrider S that's palatable for our demographic or a bagger that we can throw T-bars on, it's like we're not
sure
their biggest market, period.
We aren't, but I do believe that the lowrider S has been either the number 1 or number 2 seller.
It should be. It's a great bike.
I think Matt Laidlaw has said that on his channel before. Yeah. Like, they can't even keep them in stock.
Dude, if they came out a lowrider S with the Sport Glide bags, it's over. Yeah. I mean, you got a little rip and torn bike right there.
Literally everyone who gets a new lowrider S puts those bags
Puts
on.
the bag.
Yeah.
But you have to piecemeal it, right? A la carte. Yeah. You got to go buy a bunch of part numbers that
end
up to be like $3,000 or something.
My buddy Sean at TOL's, he repopped them, so I think that it's going to be, you'll be able, dude, they're the most simple bags as far as the shape of it to do like a fiberglass version. It's what's complicated is the actual Sport Glide bags has a very complicated mechanism for quick detach and opening and closing. But that can be re-engineered from anybody with, that knows fractions, basically. They can make that happen.
I think from a mechanical standpoint, the design of those bags, like when they're actually in use on a bike that's riding, don't they move a lot? Don't you think they'd be like more prone to eventual failure?
So just like on the clamshell bags, how they have that cross brace on the back that kind of goes under the fender that holds it. You kind of need that, but when they made the Sport Glide, they made the fender so short and the bags longer, which didn't make sense. It looks way better on a lowrider S where you have a full length fender.
Oh,
but they would need to make another bracket system that kind of went under the fairing
to tie them together, the left and
on
the right
backside. So you have the 2 mounts. You got basically a 3-mount system. You got one in the front at the bottom and the 2 at the top. But technically, the load limit, I guess is the word, isn't. If you go over it, then you get more shake because you have more weight in the bags. But if you keep it at that 25-pound whatever, then I think that you don't get as much swaying and shit.
Isn't the lower mount kind of like a long arm that's like reaching out in a position that can't really provide much support?
It's more. I think it's more support going from this like this.
Clocking?
Yeah. Is that what it is?
Rotational force.
Is that a fraction word?
It might be.
It's definitely an engineering word.
Right. So, yeah.
I have a hand thing for it, and you got an actual clocking. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Clocking, rotational. Yeah, just whatever. But yeah, so there needs to be some kind of tie-in to make that design even better.
But it's a great bag, man. Honestly, like I would put it on a FXR.
Yeah, but they're mismatched size, right? From the factory. That's kind of goofy.
Can't see both at the same time. Let's look from the back. Put an exhaust. Put your nice little thunder header right there on that one.
No, that's a
See, we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't
Solving
know.
the world's problems right here.
I don't know. I'm just whatever we can do to get away from RT fairings and painting those things. I'll be a happy man. He hasn't had to fuck with one yet. He hasn't had to sand
one.
Of work. Dude, it's the worst. I've said it a million times on the podcast, man. It's an inner and outer together. So it's such an awkward shape. Sanding it, painting it, doing graphics on it, it's very complicated. It's like
I was looking at mine the other night, the new one or for my new build, and like you said, there's an inner, there's an outer. I'm talking about all the different pieces that they had to make and somehow adhere together, right? Inner fairing, outer fairing. There's a headlight bucket, plus there's the 2 vents. So that's 5 pieces on an RT fairing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a busy design, right? There's a lot of surface area to handle or to paint. So
as much as I don't like painting fiberglass ones, the easiest one to paint is the RWD one because it has like those little full fillers that are on the side. So when you're sitting on the inside of the fairing, so
where my glove boxes.
Yeah, where those like on the factory ones, they have those glove boxes that can kind of.
And again, we're talking early style fairing, not the later style.
Not later,
right?
So that one actually covers that on the inside, which is makes it to where you don't see as much of the inside fairing on the fiberglass ones. The TOL one is complete finished inside and out, so when you paint it, it looks really good, but it's very heavy because you're talking about 2 different pieces being molded together.
Is that how you were telling me that Connolly's did their parts?
Yeah. They had a 2-piece mold, or on something simple like a quarter fairing or a T-Sport, you can actually vacuum bag that, which will give you a smooth inner side and not just hand lay it. But, they might have done it the other way too, where you put 2 pieces together. I don't know. I'm going to go use the restroom real quick, and then we'll actually talk about this thing that you were supposed to talk about. So, y'all go ahead.
All good, man.
I'll be right back.
All right.
All this water.
So you get more comments?
Yes.
I mean, who watches this thing anyway, right? I mean, it's like what? 2 people in Kazakhstan that are watching this?
Bunch of losers, probably.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. Jones says the Mayans will save Harley. You ever watched the Mayans?
I didn't. Have you?
Yeah, I watched, I think, the first season.
Is it pretty good?
It was all right. It's not Sons of Anarchy.
No. Sons of Anarchy was pretty good, man. I'm not going to lie. I don't care what people say. I thought it was well written. It's a good show.
Yeah, I mean, back to, Harley's not going the right direction on, trying to please this crowd or the younger crowd. They're just coming out with bikes and thinking, what they think would please the new crowd instead of taking what they see.
Like what's already known to work.
These people are buying these bikes and everyone's doing the same thing to them.
But honestly, I'm sure they focus group the hell out of it, and they have their reasons. They know. I'm sure there's not a single decision that's just inconsequential. They have a plan.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, it also helps out the little businesses.
Yeah.
You buy a stock bike, and then that helps out all the small businesses buying parts and doing all that. So they can't exactly just put one out on the floor that's got T-bars and suspension, all this stuff.
No.
Yeah, he's not. They're definitely doing that, but they want you to do all their customizing there. You know what I mean? Because they make more money that way.
Yeah.
Customizing that Harley?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, just doing a bar swap is probably almost $1,000 now.
Oh, it's more than that.
I've seen some of their custom bikes that they make. They do like a new M8 lowrider, but they'll put some T-bars and a seat, maybe an exhaust, and sell it for like $26,000.
Yeah, that ain't me, bro.
That's Marcus. That's the bike he got.
Marcus's bike looks good.
It's nice, though.
It is nice.
He ended up getting a really good deal on it, to my knowledge.
I think he did. Yeah, he had to go a little bit further south,
Waco
right?
or Texas or Central Texas or something. I don't know, something like that. But
they made it worth his while.
Full FXR fairing on a lowrider S, all painted like battleship gray.
Yeah,
with the Sport Glide bags on it, already there.
Yeah, and he just put lowers on it this past week,
really good.
So looks real good.
That's fucking stairs, dude. I always think like, oh, I'm gonna run back up there and get on the podcast, and I realized that if I just walked, it would even itself out with me catching my breath.
It's all right,
so the motivation for this M8 FXR, where'd it come from?
Honestly, when I saw pictures of Jeff Holt's bike, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Like, oh my gosh, someone put a Milwaukee 8, a modern drivetrain, into a vintage style bike. I thought that was just really cool. And so, yeah, that's what kind of like lit the spark. I'm gonna give props where props are due. I'm not the first person to do this, nor will I be the last. There's no way. But I, found out that Justin Coleman from Torch had did the fab work. He's the one who's really like pioneering this stuff, and
who's also part of FXR division.
Exactly, and who's also like one of my fabrication heroes. Right, he's someone I like truly respect. I love his work. It seems to be like so meticulous, and he's one of those guys that was so willing. Like, when I reached out to him before I even started this project, I had questions about what it was going to take and all that. He didn't know me.
Yeah,
but he took the time to answer me and told me that, yeah, man, I listened to your other podcast with Jace, and so we already felt like we knew each other. But he was just super helpful in giving me advice on how to tackle the project.
Did you listen to that podcast, the Fabricator's Ball, where he smoked weed and he had to walk out?
I did.
He didn't make it like 10 minutes. He's the best though, man. Like every time I go to Phoenix, like stopping there to talk to him and see how he's doing is kind of like a must, Yeah. I would say him and Tony from Ramjet are like my Phoenix like must go say hi to guys. But yeah, I mean, like, I was talking to someone yesterday, I think, about FXRs. I was like, some of the cleanest FXRs that I've ever seen, like full customs, have been sitting in his shop getting built, at the FXR Division Torch.
Yeah.
It is. It's just nice stuff. I mean, him and what Big Chris is doing over there, it's really nice.
And I don't think Justin gets enough credit, to be honest with you. He's not one of those guys out there who's constantly promoting himself and patting himself on the back, right? He seems like a lot more low-key.
He's chill. I think that, man, there's something to be said about that, though, because nobody has anything bad to say about him as a person or his builds and his skills. And I think that speaks way more than just being, the crowd favorite. You know what I mean? Like, he's built some of the most amazing bikes. He did the TV show, the Biker Live, and everybody in Phoenix, every shop in Phoenix knows who he is and has had him make something or do something for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's very respected.
That says a lot. I mean, Phoenix, with such a history of custom motorcycles, that they know that he's the dude to reach out to for custom fabrication.
He's way better than Brian from TPJ as well.
Way better from Brian.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure Brian hears that. Fucking Brian called or sent me a text the other day. And he goes, some fucking dumbass that listens to your podcast brought Montuckies over to my house. And I was like, who? He goes, oh, that dude Justin. So Justin was up there drinking Montuckies. I guess he went to Reno to hang out with those guys. And I love those guys. They're awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope to meet some of these guys one day. I mean, it's weird how you can establish relationships over digital medium. And you feel like you have so much in common. You get along really well, but you have yet to meet him because you're separated by thousands of miles.
I mean, I think, like just the style of work that you do, I feel like you would, like, y'all three just talking would,
Shop
I
talk.
could just, like, go ahead and put the mics on and go, back to work and let y'all have fun and talk because you guys are all very knowledgeable in the building aspect, You all know fractions very well.
Yes.
Very well.
That's it. We allot all our success to, we attribute it all to fractions. But I mean, those guys are on another level. I'm honored that you would even put me in the same sentence as those guys because they are super talented. Whereas, for me, yes, I feel like I do have a pretty decent set of skills, but I don't think the stuff that I do is unattainable.
Yeah,
You come into my garage, you've been there before. Mm-hmm. Yes, I've got a milling machine, I've got a lathe, I've got a welder. It's not a big fancy outfit. I'm in my garage.
Yeah.
My two most common tools that I use are a couple of angle grinders, one with a cutoff wheel and one with a flap disc.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff I make is with those two things, to be quite honest. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, yes, I do have a pretty decent set of skills. Plus, I'm pretty meticulous. Mm-hmm. So I don't just throw things together.
Those characteristics is what creates a style. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being like the way you are, being meticulous or not being is a style. You know what I mean? Like, not to say that one's better than the other. Definitely, I would say, yes, I would say that being meticulous is better and safer.
Sure.
But then again, the more reckless style too also is a style.
For
you know
sure.
what I mean?
For sure. Yeah, like you have to find that balance because we talked about this before too, but just because you're meticulous and stuff doesn't mean that your bike's gonna come across and move you and have the bike doesn't have soul. And a lot of times you see that. I've said this before on the last podcast. I remember saying this. A lot of times machinists parts have no soul.
Yeah.
They're just dead static objects. An exception to that would be an Al Emerson.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's a very big exception. Because he's found a combination of super meticulous aircraft quality, that kind of caliber, but still funky.
Yeah,
the parts still have soul,
and that's what you want. You want that balance between creative, being able to make something, but it all works together and stays in the same, like it's all meant to be together.
Yeah,
and some people are just like. To me, I've always said when it comes to painting, and this is how I would kind of attribute that to what you do. It's like I'm not painting one piece at a time. I'm painting one thing. Everything has to work together. It's not like this fender also had. If one piece, like say a saddlebag lid is solid color black, and the rest of the bike is painted, it's because it's a piece of the puzzle. It's not the puzzle, right?
Yeah.
So it has to look good with every other part. And so if I used to hate it back in the day, in the early days when a customer would walk up, and these were customers that I don't have anymore, but they're like, hey, I just need something on this lid, or I need something right here. It's just kind of bare. I'm like, well, if I put something there, it doesn't balance well. Well, I just feel like I'm paying for a paint job and I need something right there. Like, oh, this is not, that's the kind of shit I used to deal with. You know what I mean? So it's like, you're making something that just kind of looks good as when you step back and see it as a whole. You know what I mean?
Well, many people would lean towards the more busy side. They'd rather have a paint job that's busy because, like you said, hey, I'm paying for paint. I want something right here in this void. Where more often than not, sometimes that negative space or that void is what completes the package.
It helps draw your eye to the area you want them to see.
For sure.
Well, last thing about that before we talk more about the FXR, it's like when you have time into your skill, you start to build a customer base and you start to hone that customer base into people that really want your art and they want you to do what you do and not necessarily micromanage you throughout the whole process. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And so that's kind of where you want to get. And that's only something you're going to get over time of building your skills and your network. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
of
it
customers.
takes time, and it needs to be organic. You can't set out with all these goals that I'm going to be the baddest builder on the planet and all that. No, you have to let your work speak for itself. Organically, knock out one bike after another. And with each bike, you learn something else.
Yeah, you learn something else about what you're doing, and you learn something else about how to handle that relationship with the customer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's another thing that's not part of the whole skill package when you're trying to be a great painter or a great welder. It's like, oh, I got to also talk to the customer. I have to keep them entertained and happy and motivated in this project throughout the time frame. And so, there's a lot more to all these. You wear so many hats when you do this type of stuff. So
totally. I can see that. I don't envy your position at all. And I mean, for me, none of this is my day job. This is all just a passion, right? It's just a side business.
Well, it's because you're smart. You know fractions.
Yes.
I'll keep saying it.
The name of this podcast is Fraction.
The fractional.
But no, I mean that's one of the that's dude. If I could have had a job where I was able to live off of it, and had all the benefits of like a normal 9 to 5, vacation, and all the other benefits that come with having an actual job. Doing this on the side would be so much better. Like, to me, I would enjoy that more because I could escape to it. Now I look for something to escape this. You know what I mean? Like it is my normal job.
It's
so
true.
it's perspective, man, depending on how you look at it. But anyway.
Yeah.
FXR.
Okay.
So Justin made you like.
Yeah, he inspired me.
He inspired you.
Yeah, and Justin, and there was also a guy from Canada, Trevor at TSM Customs in Canada. He had built a Milwaukee 8 FXR as well, and I had been thinking about this project for months and months, and then finally I came across a Milwaukee 8 drivetrain out of a bagger on Facebook Marketplace, so I can't cancel this account, and I got a smoking hot deal on a 2018 bagger drivetrain with like 5,000-ish miles. So I was like, you know what? That's it. This is happening. I bought that drivetrain. I bought a frame from my buddy Brooks in Canton, and then got to chopping. And I mean, like I said,
so what
grinder and flap wheel.
What do you think? What's been the hardest part about? Obviously, that motor is massive.
It's huge.
Same concepts though, as far as fitting it to the thing as a twin cam. So you're moving the cross member at the bottom.
Yeah. So
things like that.
Yeah. Listen, none of this is rocket science. You have a bigger puzzle piece now, so you need to adjust the surrounding pieces so this one can fit. So probably the biggest challenge is all the clearancing underneath the backbone. You're dealing with a taller motor. From the backbone, we're starting at the front of the bike, actually. From that neck area, you got to remove material all the way under the backbone. Then you go into the seat area, and you have to taper it off well to where it looks, where it's not so noticeable. Yeah, it has to look natural and organic. And the other thing you have to do, well, first off, luckily, the Milwaukee 8, the way that a swing arm adapts to the back of the transmission is no different than the twin cam era and the Evo era. So all those same swing arms are interchangeable, and they all happen to all fit in the frame as well. So that was the plus. But you have to fabricate or come up with some kind of mounts for the front motor mounts, right, on the bottom, because just because of the way that the Milwaukee 8.
Don't a lot of people just run like the Chopper House or the Big Bear mounts?
I think you can. Like I think you can. Yeah. But I just bought a piece of round stock and machined my own.
Made your own shit.
Yeah, on my lathe, and it worked out. But at the same time, paying homage to those guys who have done this stuff before, I wanted to do something different and put my own take on it, right? Yeah. I wanted to approach this from a working man's perspective, okay? The bikes that had been done before that I mentioned, those things were ultra high-end. These were not cheap motorcycles, right? These are big, badass motors and super exotic suspension. And so I wanted to just approach it from a different mentality, to not necessarily throw a lot of money at it, but at the same time, try to make stock parts cool. Even when I was building choppers, that's something that I always prided myself on, that I could take a stock part. I don't need to go spend $500 on a performance machine caliper. I can take a stock one and make it look cool, do some tricks or something. And like my swing arm, I'm not spending $2,000 on some billet or aluminum welded up.
I was say I'll sell you one.
Yeah, that's Justin's, right?
Yeah,
it looks really nice. But that's not me.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about this before. I'm cheap.
Yeah.
Okay. So my bike is going to reflect my cheapness. So I'm going to take apart. Like I bought that swing arm for $60. $60 is a lot more manageable than $2,000, right?
Yeah.
So, but it takes a lot of severe modifications to make it work. Like I had to remove a lot of material from the sides, which I still need to go and box in once I tear it all down. So my goal is to show the potential that stock parts have and to maybe spark imagination at upper levels of, but at Harley Davidson to show that, hey man, this is all Harley Davidson parts. There isn't much aftermarket stuff here. all of your parts have this kind of potential.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that like I'm trying to effectively influence design at Harley. What I'm saying is this is my internal goal that I'm internalizing. I want to show that there is something that could be made out of what exists today, and it could be super cool. And it's combining parts from vastly different eras.
Yeah.
I've got a chassis and sheet metal. It's coming from the FXR era. My drivetrain, my swing arm is all from the Milwaukee 8 era. My wheels, Milwaukee 8. You know, this is all Milwaukee 8 touring. My front end is Dyna, right? I've got
like 49 millimeters.
49 millimeters.
Yeah.
It's my first exposure to doing 49 millimeters. So it's my first bike I ever built with a mid glide. So I've got like street bob trees, Dyna tubes and lower legs, dual disc. You know, I usually don't build dual disc bikes, but this bike is going to be more performance oriented.
Yeah.
I usually do nothing but stock Evos, you know, and this is going to be, well, it's already a 107 Milwaukee 8.
It's
and
going to rip in that frame though. I mean, it's going to be fast.
Yeah, I think so, because it's going to be a much lighter weight platform than a touring bike. I mean, we have to see once it's all said and done, put it on a scale, you know, with a bike like yours versus this one to see what the true weight savings is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to combine parts from different eras that have absolutely no business being on the same machine and show that the overall result is.
We were
cool.
talking about this I think it's Strokers or whatever we hung out.
Yeah.
So you're running a normal size bagger touring swing arm on there, which also is a wider, 180 tire.
That's right.
What are you having to go through to make that work and run that 180 on the FXR frame?
Yeah, and again, these are things I hadn't even seen done before, so I felt like and maybe somebody's done it before. I just don't know. So I'm having to come up with new ideas, right? So I'm taking what the other guys have done before that did Milwaukee 8s, and I'm adding my own twist and maybe building off of their foundation, right? So I hadn't seen anybody do this before with the touring wheels and like the 180 rear tire and all that sort of thing. So anyway, I was not willing to start heating up the frame and like stretching out those frame rails and all that sort of thing. So what I did is just have to section or to clearance those integrated frame struts or frame horns, if you will, that are part of the frame. So if you're looking at the back of the bike, you're looking at two circular tube profiles, right? The end tubes. So now you have to go and remove material from each one of those circles. So now you've got two effectively D-shaped profiles.
Almost like half circles.
Yeah, basically, exactly. And so as you do that, well, then what else do you need to do? Well, you need to widen the rear fender. So that brings in my some of my skills that I acquired from the chopper building days, right? Doing a lot of sheet metal work, making gas tanks. And so anyway.
So instead of like narrowing things,
now I had to widen it.
Yeah.
But man, I'm telling you, because here's the deal. I have a fairly stock 84 FXRT sitting right next to this bike in the garage. So I can look and compare. And one of the things that, even though I love the styling of the OG bikes, things have changed since then, right? They tend to look a little anemic compared to today's standards, right? That little 130 tire looks really skinny.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with a rear profile that has clamshell bags as somewhat wide, then you have a wide fairing in the front, and then you've got these little spaghetti tubes for a front end, right? 35 millimeter. Just look at the difference in bulk and visual mass.
So
from
what
a 35
you're doing
to
here
a
is
49.
You're just really proportioning the bike out with the bigger motor and things that are going in it.
I'm doing everything in my mind that needs to be done to scale this bike accordingly to get it into the modern era. A 180 is a sweet looking rear tire to me.
Yeah. And
now that I've widened the rear and adjusted the struts and all that stuff accordingly to accommodate it, when you look at this bike from the rear, it looks fitting. It looks like, yep, this is how they should have done it.
Yeah.
And now that's my goal. Same thing, I posted a picture on Instagram this week of the front profile of the bike with the fairing and the lowers and the front end with the 49 millimeter tubes. It all looks proportionate.
Yeah.
It just works. And that mid-glide front end barely, and I mean barely, just clears inside the early fairing.
So have you with the drivetrain in the frame? Have you ran a belt yet to the wheel, and everything's clearing pretty good on the inside of the frame?
Yes, sir, Bob. It all works perfectly. Yeah.
So you had to, as far as on the swing arm, you had to channel out basically the top side of it just for the swing of the frame.
Well, yeah, it's not so much the top side. It's the way the side of the factory swing arm bulges out. Yeah, it's like this kind of hydroformed look, you know. So it's got all that mass that, yes, when you articulate the swing arm, all of that mass was causing interference. So that's why I had to remove those kind of odd-shaped sections. And hopefully it looks cool whenever I box it in. I think it will. But regardless, I'm making it work because I was 100% motivated to run those wheels that I'm running, which for those who haven't seen it, it is Enforcer 2 wheels, which come off of a 2020 Road Glide. And why? Because now Enforcers have 18-inch rears.
Yeah. They look so good.
Oh, my God. 18-inch rear compared to 16 is night and day difference.
I've been saying this shit for so long, and we're talking about proportion, right? When that 18-inch rear wheel, especially on FXRs and Dynas and stuff, when you see that bigger wheel back there, you have less tire, like, profile and just more wheel, and then you see through the wheel more, so it's just, to me, it just
custom
fits
looking.
it.
It's custom.
Like an 18, 19 setup in the front, perfect. Like, I struggle with
That's what I'm running, yeah.
On my bagger down there, I have a 21 front, and I kind of like the 18 better. The 19 better in the front, yeah.
It's like, man, your bike looks pretty proportionate to scale, but it's a fat 21. It's not a skinny 21, right? So it looks
fat 21 compared to like not a fat tire 21.
No. Yeah, right. Yeah. Not like the Paul Yaffe fat front end, but you're talking like a 120 or 130/70.
Yeah, 130, I think.
Yeah, 130/60, 120/70.
The thing about it is that I guess because I take pictures of my bike a lot, I see it from a lot of unrealistic angles that make me feel like the wheel just doesn't look proportionate on the bike. You know what I mean? It's almost, it's just me the way I see it in a lot of different ways.
You think you might go back and put a 19?
I don't know. I've thought about it. Just I'll tell you what. When I put the 21 on, I thought it really changed a lot of the dynamics of how it rode. And so that was one of the things that kind of I wanted to push it back, but I'm really used to it now, so I don't feel the difference anymore.
It's a bigger
gyroscope. I haven't ridden my bagger all year, which is like 3 weeks now.
Oh shit! Like, what are you talking?
But I've been, like I said, it's I haven't. Like I was talking to someone at bike night last night. I was like, I haven't had a chance to ride the bagger because we had the anniversary party and I had people here for that, and then it's just been nonstop work since.
Yeah,
then.
And the weather hasn't been all that cooperative.
Yeah, no reason like to.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, I was absolutely married to the thought that I am going to run Enforcer 2 wheels on this bike. So everything else that needed to happen to make it work, I did. Yeah. Right. So I'm
stoked you're using those wheels because that 18-inch rear changed that whole thing for me. And I was hoping it wasn't like some of the touring what is it So on the baggers, the new touring baggers, or some of the newer ones, they run like a 16 still on some of the rear wheels on the like electric glides or some shit. Or something like that.
Yeah, more the grandpa kind of.
Yeah. I was hoping you didn't have that shit on there.
Yeah. I mean, I love an 18, man, an 18 combo.
That's good.
So anyway, but to make it work in the front though, right? An Enforcer 2 in the front is made for the bagger front end, which the forks are pretty darn wide. Yeah. And I knew I couldn't fit that inside of a fairing. Mm-hmm. So how in the heck am I going to get a touring wheel with its super wide brake disc spacing to fit in a mid-glide? And I'd posted a story so people could see how I did it. But basically, I took that whole dang wheel and chunked it up, put it up on my milling machine, did the math, figured out exactly how much I needed to remove from the wheel itself, the part of the wheel that's threaded that actually has, the flat profile that's machined for your brake rotor to sit against. Yeah. And I removed basically a ½ inch from each side so that I could finally get both of those rotors mounted to the wheel and actually get them to physically fit in between the fork legs. But the problem was now the little button heads that attach your rotors to the wheel didn't fit. So I went old school with my dang flap disc on the fork leg, and I clearanced some little. Yeah, I mean. Not much, just a little bit, right? Yeah, just enough for it to clear. I know I'm not penetrating past the wall thickness of.
You basically pulled your calipers inside of the wheel profile more or less, so that you basically sunk it in.
Yeah.
And just kind of that way you can get your clearances with
Yeah,
the
I
rotors
mean, listen,
and things like that.
First off, if I wouldn't have done any mods to the front wheel itself, the whole wheel assembly isn't even fitting in between the fork legs because those discs are running into it. So you do the math, you figure out how much you need to get it removed from each side to effectively get the rotor to fit. Then you start doing other little doodad clearancing.
So what are you doing for a front fender then?
I did it. It's on there. I took the same stock fender that came on a Dyna Lowrider S, and I widened it. You can't really tell from the picture.
Okay. So it bolts on the outside. I know what you mean. Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, but so it all looks proportionate now, right? Because if I'd have left that fender stock, well, the tire was wider than the fender. That's a terrible look. Yeah. So I added an inch to the inside. Is he sharing videos?
No, I was looking at the time, but no.
I wonder.
I don't know.
I thought you said you were going to be able to. Have like.
Were you showing any of the pictures of his bike?
Yeah. You can do that.
Mm-hmm. We're getting there.
Young Jamie.
Well, if I would put the YouTube thing, I could put the TV on with this thing live right now and turn the volume down. You'd be able to see like the pictures coming up.
Ah, I see.
But, yeah.
You haven't got that?
No, I could turn it on right now.
Oh, I see. I see.
Didn't do it.
But yeah, so anyway, I widened that front fender so everything looks proportionate now. And next time I'm working on the exhaust. I'm just about done with that.
What are you gonna do on the exhaust?
Well, again, going back to my theme of being cheap and trying to take stock parts and make them cool.
Yeah.
I kept the stock headers, okay, hear me out, because they fit super tight onto the bike. And I like everything tight. I want as tight of a...
Nobody wants anything loose, man. Come on.
Oh, that's true. But anyway, I say that I want it tight, but I got a big fairing with lowers and all that. But anyway, I like the way they fit the bike, okay? Yeah. And they're made out of stainless. Granted, it's a low-grade quality of stainless. So what I did was I took those headers. I then chopped off, everything from where the two factory headers or from the factory are like welded together to this kind of really goofy shaped collector.
Almost, collector cat kind of thing.
Yeah, so I made my own collector out of some stainless bins, right? And then I bought a muffler from Cone Engineering, right? And put it all together. And then I took those heat shields because, again, the quality of the stainless it's not the same. It's not like some high. It starts to discolor and turn. Yeah. Really, it tarnishes pretty ugly, with the elements. So I took the heat shields, and I was inspired by Trask Performance, who has done heat shields with cutaways, right? And I've cut holes in the heat shields to expose an area where I could run like a stainless mesh.
Yeah.
Same effect as these microphones here. Mm-hmm. So I'm combining some of the stock parts that most people would throw away in a heartbeat.
You're not building a catalog bike. You're literally taking stock parts and adding.
God. Yeah. The stuff that I'm doing is so one-off.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of this is from the P&A catalog. And then, so yeah, I'm just trying to, number one, stay on a budget. Listen, I'm trying to build this bike for under $10,000. I'll be honest with you, okay? And before paint, right? We talked. Paint's expensive. And I need you to come up with like good recommendations for painters because I'm really looking for one. If you know anybody like in the DFW area that paints and does good work.
Yeah. We'll see.
So anyway, yeah, so I'm trying to do this on a budget. And yeah, like the exhaust is just one of those things where I'm still going to have, it looks cool. It's still a 2-into-1 exhaust, just like all the other ones that I can buy from anybody. But the problem is anybody can write a check. Anybody can buy exhaust. That's not me. I want something custom that was made with my own hands that nobody else has.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do the same thing with the controls. The controls are going to be so one-off. I've been thinking about it this week, how I'm going to accomplish it with because I like running floorboards. Now that I've experienced floorboards on a personal bike of mine, I'm not going back to pegs, So what I'm going to do, and I'm not one of those guys that like tries to keep all these secrets. Like, I don't want to tell you what I'm doing until I reveal it. That stuff's ridiculous. Okay, what I plan on doing, and I hope I can make this work, is I don't want to run big floorboards. That's the standard size driver floorboard. Using passenger floorboards, the miniature ones. And I'm going to do those in kind of in a similar position to like where your pegs are on your bike, on your mid controls. That's going to be a mini floorboard. that's going to then, but it's very complicated to mount because you've got that exhaust and all that stuff's in the way. So I have to fabricate some kind of system to mount off of the frame to then go up and hold the floorboards. And then off of there, now I have to figure out how to articulate arms, right? For shifting and for braking.
Well, on the primary, you're not just going to drill the primary and sleeve it?
Nope. Because the position that I want my floorboards in doesn't lend itself well to that hole.
You're going to be a little bit forward from that?
So it's not quite the stock floorboard position, and not quite maybe like where your pegs are. So maybe it's kind of like in between there.
It's like a forward mid kind of thing?
Yeah. Maybe probably like what's on the
like
soft tail.
Fat Bob.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But again, I have to experience, because listen, I was sitting on the bike last night trying to figure out, well, guess what? Fairing lowers change everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I got to put it in a way.
You got your cam chest too in there, so you don't have so much space between where that cam chest is, where that
exhaust pipe
exhaust is coming down, and then where your lowers are going to mount to the frame to have like a brake arm.
Yeah, so that's going to be the biggest challenge out of all this, is figuring out the brake arm, because you know how like on an FXRP, there's a really goofy looking brake arm that the factory did. I might have to do something goofy.
Well, think about it like this: like, so on the newer Softails, they have one mounting position for all their controls, right? So the mounting position, hear me out though. I don't like it either, but that might give you a forward mount that comes back to a mid mount, kind of thing, so that you have something in the front and it has like a brake arm kind of thing.
Hold on though. My bike is now using, remember, because I'm using an FXR frame.
Yeah.
But with a Milwaukee 8 drivetrain, those forward control mounting bosses are now my motor mount bosses.
Okay.
So those are already occupied with something, and I don't want to be layering motor mounts with controls and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to go off of the frame directly.
Underneath?
Yeah, directly underneath where I deem them necessary. But yeah, fairings change everything, because I was experimenting, like putting my feet in different places. I'm like, yep, my boot's hitting that lower fairing, and it's going to be an annoyance.
Are you ruined now with the fairings? You just can't have a bike without one?
I cannot have a bike without a fairing.
I know the feeling.
It's gone.
It's hard to go back.
Seeing a bike without some sort of fairing is an FXR specifically is very odd to me.
Yeah.
It's got to at least have something up front. But
that's why I struggle. That's one of my factors when like I think about the choppers that I would love to have or build or be a part of or whatever for myself. It's like I'm so ruined with fairings, man. Like and it's like I don't want to have any bike that I couldn't ride across country.
Right.
Even if it's not the most comfortable thing.
Yeah.
I still want to experience it riding across country, but then I'm just so ruined with fairings.
Fair, especially, dude. Listen, I don't have much experience riding behind like a road glide fairing other than those 100 miles. Man, the RT fairing works. Yeah. It puts you in a nice little bubble. And I can feel whenever I put my head, stick it out a little bit more, and it starts buffeting along the top, and it's like, oh man, this is. And you can manipulate that with your windscreen height,
Yeah, like the road glide blocks a lot, man. My buddy James, one of the dudes on that wall back there, he was like Cody has like a Memphis Shade style fairing. He's right there in that blue flannel.
Yeah, right here.
So me and him will be riding in the front, and James on the blue bike will be riding behind us. He goes, man, you could just see all his like Cody's shirt's just going crazy in the wind, and I'm just like, my shirt ain't even moving while I'm riding down the road with my road glide and stuff. Yeah, it just really takes a lot of wind off of your, like, basically belly up. I mean, you feel it in your arms because your arms are kind of exposed out like this, but
I don't miss any of that stuff. Like from riding choppers and stuff, I can remember like in the summer, my T-shirts, just the back of them, just crawling up my back, and my shirt's like way up here.
I hate when you're riding though, and then like, so I got a belly, and then the wind just catches it right and puts your shirt all the way up. It's like nipples hanging out and shit. It's like it never happens. It always happens whenever. Well, it does happen, but it's like I know when it's about to, so I tuck it under my belly.
Yeah.
Super gross. So all of a sudden you're like trying to be hard and shit, and you got like fucking jiggles flying in the wind. It's gross.
I don't know, man. I'm skinny. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, what's that like?
I don't know. I was born this way. Yeah, but I am spoiled to riding with a fairing now. I mean, I don't see how I could possibly go back, but I just wanted to, in this whole M8 build, I had a few things that I wasn't going to stray from, like the wheels, clamshells are coming. I already have them. I just haven't mounted them. I had to have a fairing, and this bike I wanted lowers, and I had a set of lowers already, so it didn't cost me anything because they came when I bought my 84.
Yeah.
So they're from Connelly's. I mean, they're fine. They seem to be decent quality. They're smooth on the inside and the outside. It's not that rough fiberglass texture. And anyway, man, I feel like my my batteries have been recharged in this build. I'm energized. I'm excited to go out in the garage and work on this thing again.
What's your deadline for it? Are you trying to have it ready for like Sturgis or anything like that?
Nope, I don't do deadlines. Nope.
For real?
Nope. Just whenever I let things organically fall into place, I'm not going to cut corners.
Yeah.
Deadlines promote corner cutting, and that ain't me. I'd rather, because if this is something I'm going to have for years or maybe the rest of my life, who knows? I'm not going to.
I feel like that to me, when I think about building another FXR and putting, even though you're not putting real money in it, but like real money, like I put in my gold one.
Yeah.
Like for what it would cost to get an SNS 124, I can buy a 131 from Harley, or find a complete drivetrain with everything going on for, you got a good deal on yours, but for the $4,000 or $5,000 range, you can definitely find a complete drivetrain, wire harness, all that shit for that.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's the fucking move. And it's like with you doing it, Justin and the other dude out of Canada, and more people are going to probably start doing it as time goes on and these motors become more available.
I think so to a certain extent. This isn't a twin cam swap.
Yeah.
A twin cam swap, a home hobbyist can kind of do with basic fabrication skills. I've seen hacks put together twin cam FXRs. This is not that kind of thing. This does require, not to sound like a jerk, but the next level of fabrication skill, if it's going to be done right.
Well, I feel like guys maybe you're not going to, I don't know if you would open up your doors to taking those type of projects to build frames for people, but I know that I think Justin had talked about doing that FXR division.
I've seen, Justin's done a few other frames for people.
And I think that it's going to get to a point where it does become public knowledge, if you will, to where like you all of a sudden now you know exactly where you need to move this and do this.
But knowledge ain't enough though.
You
have to have the skill. If you don't know how to weld and fabricate in a really accurate way,
figuring out where to cut, what to cut. Then the skill has to come along and still be there, but knowing where to cut. Like the first days of the cutting frames for big wheels, it was a lot different because people were doing it with more fabrication skills. Then they made it super simple, and where you just buy this and it gives you plates you cut off. Dude, I fucking put necks on, and I don't even know how to weld. So
because then you have people like Moose who are doing those kind of pioneering.
Well, we would cut. I would cut everything and have everything prepped in my shop. Necks would slip fit. Everything's ready to go, and then this dude would come by the shop with his fucking welder in the back of his truck, and zip, zip, zip. 3 or 4 in a row.
For somebody like me, this is where I'm standing on the shoulders of giants like Justin. He's done all the figuring. He just tells me where to cut about a half inch here or there. I'm like, okay, I'll go and do it.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's just, it'll be more people will have that knowledge now of where they need to cut and what has to get removed to make it more. When Yaffe was telling me about his M8 frames that he's building, to me, it's like there's just nothing. You cannot replace the look of an FXR frame. If you ever see an FXR roller sitting on a lift, like it's a roller, no motor, just a frame, just that beefy fucking frame rail. Awesome. It's like sex, dude. It's fucking awesome.
It's in awesome shape.
Yeah.
The lines
even though like
it looks muscular.
Yeah.
Right?
Even if you're talking about looking at it from the back, how once you put that small ass wheel in there, it kind of like, all right, man, like it's not the same, but when it's not, it just has like this bulky pit bull kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, it's got to look tough, man. It's all part of it. And listen, I'll be honest with you. This build was intended to use some of that chopper influence in my background. All the bikes I've ever done before have involved so much hand fabrication. There's not a lot of just bolting on stuff.
Yeah.
And let's be quite honest, the FXR custom built, FXRs don't lend themselves as well as a chopper. Nothing lends itself as much as a chopper to custom fabrication.
Yeah.
Period. It's the most universal platform for customization. I mean, you can change fender and a seat and a tank on a chopper, and you got a completely different machine.
Yeah.
Okay? The FXR, it's a little bit more difficult to express yourself with fabrication than the chopper scene.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I'm trying to do in this build. That's another one of my goals, is to add some fabrication, some true building.
Yeah.
Okay? Because listen, this is going to hurt people's feelings, but changing your forks or your front end from chrome and you're going to black it out and you think that that's bike building, that's not. That's nowhere near bike building. I don't care who you are. Okay?
That's why I always use
that's
the word.
cake decorating, right?
Well, I call it customizing because that's it's custom. You're taking something and you're customizing it differently. And the reason I say that is because, you know, in some terms of magazine terms, I have built bikes, but I've never built bikes the way that you do. But I customize. I always say it's like I take something that's already built and I change it. So I customize it.
Yes, but you've never pretended to do anything otherwise, right? You've been very clear on numerous podcasts about the whole customize versus build terminology, right? I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But don't tell me because you swapped or you got some parts powder coated that you built that bike, because you didn't.
Yeah.
You didn't build that bike.
Well, a lot of people in the world that well, you see these scenes come and go. You see the big wheel thing come and go. You see the chopper thing kind of come and go. And now, you know, you have vintage choppers that's kind of ruling the chopper market.
Yeah.
You know, like it doesn't roll off the tongue to walk up and be like Born Free. You're an invited customizer, you know, or, hey man, did you build this bike? No, man, I customized it. It's just it's a lazy term is what, in my opinion. But it's too much of an umbrella that covers too many different types of modifications, and it lumps everybody together. And there's a big difference between a guy like me and you, as far as building is concerned, and maybe to maybe assume there's a big difference between you and, was it Vintage Technologies? You ever built the exposed motor fucking thing?
Yeah, I'm not even.
It's another level.
Yeah,
like,
that's different.
The dude next year is probably gonna fucking pour his own rubber for his tires,
he's
and then
rubber.
all right, yeah,
for sure. He's
so there's always gonna be like it's a never ending argument of like the egg or the chicken, which one came
right.
first.
But listen, so the chopper scene, for all the faults that it has and the reasons that I kind of got like turned off by it.
Yeah.
You know, all this chopular kind of stuff.
All the shit that influenced me.
Yeah,
Sorry.
right. For all the problems that it has, they definitely embrace fabrication more than any other segment that I've seen. Because to build a chopper, you have to have welding skills. You can't just, for the most part, buy a bunch of parts and bolt them together. You're still going to have to fabricate some tabs and weld them on. So you're still effectively building. So I give them credit for that, for sure.
Well, that's where it gets like weird when it comes to like customizing. I understand how that could be very hard for people that are truly talented or skilled in fabrication and creating frames and building stuff and making it out of nothing. When the industry changes to where being a fiberglass guy is a builder, you know what I mean? And that's what happened with big wheel baggers, where being able to weld was this. It was all you had to do was weld the neck. The rest of this shit was, you know, to an extent, was making shit out of fiberglass. You know what I mean? Because the body was different, things like that. You know, there was still more fabrication in big wheel baggers than there is in performance baggers. That's for sure.
For sure.
You know,
I mean,
but there are things coming like what DA Performance just had a fucking full stainless steel frame made, bagger frame.
Say what?
DA Performance up there in Chicago, they had a full stainless
frame for a bagger. That's a complicated frame to make.
It's completely out of stainless.
They did it?
Them or somebody really close to them.
Holy smoke.
It's for a bagger they're building. So it's like anything. It's like you got to figure out a way. I mean, think about it. You have to figure out a way to actually find and how to apply what you know how to do to what's popular. Yeah. So we don't go too back far, but let's take it back to the woke culture. Like we have to include you into this, even though your skills don't lend itself to this thing anymore. Like we got to make it about you now, or you got to figure out how to make your shit work with what's going on. So it gets paint. It's not performance. Why am I a part of the performance bike scene then? I had to make my shit fit this trend, this world to stay relevant. And so a lot of fabricators, builders, they don't like the new challenge because they get comfortable with success and what they had.
Yeah.
But when the things change, they're not willing to go back to the drawing board and reinvent themselves. And that's, I've had to do it, and I'll have to do it again in a couple of years, and maybe another 10 or 15 years I'll have to do it.
Yeah. You talked about that on the podcast with Covington. Was it David, the son, recently?
Yeah.
They talked about, like he's trying to push
He is.
more the performance side, but they know what sells.
Exactly.
And they're still selling parts for, or selling complete bikes and parts because they know that this is what their demographic wants.
Yeah, so it's like we go back to what I was saying about you have to start building your next customer. You know what I mean? And so
looking towards the future and not
he's been pushing more of his customers to go the performance route, but some of them don't want to let go of that one thing that puts them in the category with their buddies. But if the same thing changes, like the big difference is when one of your buddies in your group finally makes the decision to do something different. And then that trickle down effect happens with the rest of the guys.
In your circle.
And so it also starts to happen when they build a bike that's this style and it gets more attention and more exposure than all those other bikes. Then these big money guys want that exposure. They build this bike. And a lot of people in the performance bagger scene or even the FXR scene, nobody wants the big money guys to come into the scene, but motherfuckers like me that make money off this shit happening. Like, I want these dudes to come in here and drop 70 grand on a performance bagger. That creates jobs, motherfucker.
Yeah.
That's how we live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
it trickles down.
I'm not trying to be that broke dude with nothing is taken care of in his life because I was true to my shit. Like, I'm a biker. I'm true to this shit, but I still want to fucking take care of my family and all
you
that
don't want to
stuff.
struggle.
Yeah.
No.
So
Well,
there's a lot of dynamics that I think that we all, and I'm guilty of this too, that I think that we all just like jump to because it feels good to point to single some other sect that's doing something or whatever out. And, we have to figure out how to make money with motorcycles. That's what pays the bills. And as society costs more, when the government dumps trillions of dollars into the economy to help some people out, now that's going to make our dollar worth less. That means that $10,000 paint job I was telling you about is now a $15,000 paint job because of inflation. Yeah, that's how that works.
Hey, just like you were talking about earlier about TV exposure, if there was some show that came out on Motor Trend TV or something that was bike focused, you know darn well that stuff has a direct impact on the consumer, because sometimes people just need the exposure. They need to see that this is an option. I didn't know jack about choppers until Motorcycle Mania.
Yeah, me too. Exactly.
That exposed me. That was a 1 hour documentary special that woke me up like nothing ever before.
The main difference between then and now, so think about it like this. Maybe not so much you, because like I said, you have a career. Your day-to-day isn't like waking and breathing the industry and blah, 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 right? But guys like me, guys like Justin from Torch and, Jeff Holt, like we're the guys now that have to create the shit that inspire people to do things.
Yeah, you're carrying the baton.
Yeah, we're carrying that. So
you are.
But we're also like when you talk about like Motor Trend TV and these things like that, you have these producers that come around and they want to create this. They're not into bikes, right? So they don't have a clue as to what sells on bikes. So they try to copy what was already done. They want to do another biker build off, or they want to do another American Chopper thing. They want to do that. They don't want to do a Motorcycle Mania because Motorcycle Mania didn't quite have the same impact that American Chopper did when it comes to ratings and money, right?
Yeah.
So now we're stuck with our own way of creating content. Jeff Holt's doing what he does with V-Twin Visionary. You got Cyclosaurus and Chris Cowan out there doing what they do. We got the Fast Life podcast that tries to cross as many platforms as possible.
Right.
And then you got everybody in their individual social medias, and you have all this a vast amount of YouTubers that are out there trying to create content as well. But, dude, there's nobody out there. I made this comment the other day to someone. I was like, there's nobody out there coming to my shop and go, hey, man, we love what you're doing in the industry. We want to fucking do a feature on you. I'm the motherfucker that has to do features on you. You know what I mean? There's nobody for guys like me and Jeff and Chris. Like, we're the media that creates the shit now.
Right, but at least you bring up a good point. At least we have the medium, you have the channel to get your vision out to the masses. Not the same reach as the television
Exactly.
does, but at least it's not diluted from some producer, like you were saying, who has to manipulate the show into something that it's not, giving people lines to say and creating fake drama and all that crap.
Yeah.
Because that's phony. And people can see through that. But yet they still shove that kind of stuff down your throats, in these.
The only thing about it, though,
shows.
is it is phony and it is gross when we watch it. But when it was the only thing on TV, we watched it and it still inspired us. But it was no other option. There was no YouTube to watch.
That's true.
So
Change, man.
We didn't have DVRs back then. So when Monster Garage came out, like, you were sitting there at X amount of time. Babe, can we talk about this later? Monster Garage is about to come on. Now it's like it came on. I was like, I'll catch it some other time when it's convenient to me now.
I know.
Like, it's a different world. So everything is like we have to figure out how to do it differently. But a very loose, like, bringing this up because on the subject of trying to create a bigger network of getting all of our messages out there. I already lost my fucking train of thought trying to make that up. It's very difficult now. Like, I'm trying to promote myself as much as I am trying to promote you. I'm trying to promote myself to get this out so that the trickle down economy. You know what I mean?
A rising tide.
Yeah, it
all
does.
boats, right?
But so we're all doing that, though.
Yeah.
So there is, like I said, there is no one company out there that has money behind it, that's coming out and going, hey, Fast Life Garage, we love what you're doing with the podcast. We want to do a show with you. You know what I mean? Like, no, it's some dude on his own YouTube channel that's trying to grow his platform.
Yeah. It's crazy how everything flipped.
Yeah. So we're all
in such a short time.
Yeah, it like I said, it's like watching your kids grow. You don't notice the change, but it happens so slowly that all of a sudden it's this way, and you're like, oh shit! Remember when we couldn't do FaceTime on phone calls? You know how dirty I would have been as a kid? Like, if I could, like, see my chick on her phone. I don't even want to think about my daughter and shit on her phone.
Let's move on. We have daughters.
Yeah. But it's so much different. It's like, I don't even like doing FaceTime. But if I was 19, back when I was jamming some Tupac and Machiavelli and shit back in the day, listening to Limp Bizkit, trying to get into rock music at the time. If that's rock music, people are hating me on that one. Back in the 90s, like I said, things were different. And shit happened so quickly. And so, like, when I look at our success of growing our Instagram and this thing, it's like, I don't even know if I'm doing anything right. I'm just doing what feels natural and hoping that things don't change tomorrow and Instagram's irrelevant. And now we have to figure out how to be popular on TikTok to be bike builders, right? Remember when it was like being a bike builder was showing up to a bike event with your bike that you built? Now it's about how many reposts and reshares and likes.
Like yep.
I don't like it either.
These are the
but
values.
I've benefited from it.
Yeah,
but,
sure. We all have, right?
Yeah.
But these are the values that are celebrated and embraced in today's culture, and it's not necessarily changed for the better. But hey, if
it's made people more disconnected from the actual goal, which is like when I talk about riding the events or going to campouts or keeping things more grassroots. It's like, I'm not trying to sound trendy for a chopper thing. I'm saying, like, look, man, there's something about this. It's easy to have 100,000 friends on or 100 friends or whatever the fuck on Facebook or what, but you don't know them. But then you have these smaller events like what Giddy Up was for me, what our camp out hopefully is for somebody else, where you make real friends and real connections. Like it's taking this internet shit and actually knowing that guy in Minnesota, instead of just being friends and following each other and liking each other's shit.
That's a beautiful thing. It's organic and it's happening. It seems like it's growing every year. I mean, just the camp out alone, right? You're seeing your camp out numbers probably grow exponentially compared to over the first 3 years.
Yeah, I mean it's growing. Like I said, it's growing, and what's more awesome to watch is how it's growing outside of the camp out. The amount of people that have been kind of converged to do the camp out. And then this group of friends that's kind of formed nationwide it's turned into other campouts. It's turned into other events and rides and this. It's like it all kind of happened because people converged in one area and got to know each other in a personal level.
Oh, it's got to make you feel proud. Your
I'm
babies are growing.
Yeah, my babies. What, Crystalia? my babies out there.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's just I'm only doing what I was shown by going to Giddy Up and following some of the culture of the chopper scene over the last 5 years. I've honestly just found some of it to be really great, and I'm trying to continue to push that, but make other people that don't have choppers feel welcome to it. Because that's the one thing that's never been. You go to Giddy Up and there's nothing but choppers in there. But
it's a vintage chopper show, right?
Yeah.
But the parking
lot. Me too, man. I want in here too. I want it to be about me. You have to like my handlebars and my newer 83 and up bike.
Take it easy. You're not getting a participation trophy, all right?
I want participation trophies. I showed up too. I paid money here.
All right, Karen, calm
That's
down.
everybody, man. So what? No deadline for the FXR.
No. I mean, if it gets finished before Sturgis, fantastic.
Yeah.
Listen, I would love to go to Sturgis every year. I hope it's on the cards for me to go again in 2021. It's so epic.
Yeah.
But yeah, if the bike isn't finished, then I'll have a 1984 RT that I'll be going back again.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm not creating some artificial deadline that rushes the quality of this build. And let's face it, I'm going into uncharted territory for myself. I've never built a fuel-injected bike with, I've chopped some existing Softails that had fuel injection and stuff, but I wasn't having to fabricate areas to hide all these electronics, man. We're talking 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of wiring. That wiring harness is like a
And it's even a smaller one being a CAN bus compared to the old, system.
Yeah. So luckily I have a good friend of mine, Tom. He works, Tom Talamantes. He works at Maverick Harley. We've been friends for 20 plus years, and he is a wiring expert. So I'm going to be leaning on him for help. I'm going to be doing things I haven't done before. It's like more performance-oriented things. Like I'm actually going to be doing a cam in this motor, in the typical cam plate, oil pump, lifters, probably all fueling stuff. So I'm just used to 80-inch Evos with 65 horsepower.
You're going to be stunt MainDrive cycles next year.
I don't know about that.
Never stay on the front.
No, so I'm looking forward to riding a bike from the modern era with a vintage aesthetic, but just the fact that it's all custom and there's not going to be another one in the world like it. That's the stuff that appeals to me from the custom chopper days. Yeah. And there's nothing.
It's going to be excited once it gets done. I'm excited to see it. Like I said, once I saw you were doing it, I'm like, in the back of my mind, like, I want one. I want to do it. But I also, like, as I get older, I'm getting patience, so I'm allowing things to fall into my lap rather than
good for you
making bad decisions to make things happen.
We talked about this on the last one. Glad to see your evolvement.
Yeah. So, like I said, the FXR I got now, it kind of fell in my lap through, friendships and good opportunities on their end and mine. But, no, seeing it come together, it's going to be exciting, man, because I think that's the custom right now. Like, unless I was doing a chopper, like, that's the build, because it literally is the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and I think it appeals to a lot of the chopper community. It's a perfect gateway drug. It's a carryover for people who are into choppers, but realize that they're not the most practical thing for traveling and for comfort, or you just want to ride with your girlfriend or wife or whatever. Yeah. It's a much more pleasant experience for everybody involved. The reaction has been pretty good to the people that have seen it, and again,
at the same time, man, like, we're all looking for something new, dude. We need content, man. Netflix is not making shows
running out of
fast
things
enough.
to watch.
Like, do shit, man. Make me make me excited to see Instagram.
Okay, I'm trying. I promise. I'm not one of those guys that posts very often. Plus, this stuff takes time, right? It's not like I can whip out a milestone on this build every day.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to share the progress as I go, and hopefully.
How do you stay motivated though throughout a long-term project when it's the only project you're working on, right?
It's the only one. but the fact that it's one of a kind, nobody else has done some of the things that I'm doing. So you're kind of like breaking new ground. You're pioneering certain ideas.
But you're not wanting to rush it to market, though. You're wanting to really take your time.
That's my bike.
Yeah.
That's my bike, punk. In the words of Debo.
R.I.P.
Yeah, right. So it fires me up, man, just thinking about, obviously there's always that end goal in mind when you picture yourself riding this bike, like in Sturgis in the Black Hills. That's the prize, and my eye is on that prize. And I still feel like I have got a mountain of fabrication work to do, just because it's
what do you really have left other than like you got the mid controls, I got
to fabricate the mid controls, finish like the exhaust mounting system, get the clamshells done, figure out all the internal wiring for this wiring harness,
because the frame's pretty complicated to drill internally.
Yeah, well, honestly, that common member, that big rectangular or square tubing, whatever it is it appears to be a common run or a straight run from where it dumps out in front of the battery, right, the oil tank area and all that, where the oil tank would traditionally be. It seems to be like a straight run to stuff all that wiring up inside the tube. But yeah, I mean, we're figuring out how the hand controls and the wiring and how I'm going to make all that stuff tidy and neat. This kind of stuff that I pride myself on, right? Doing stuff like real clean wiring. I mean, even on that 84 RT, I still went through all the wiring, put Deutsch connectors on everything. It's all like, it's to today's standard as much as I can make it. But like you mock up everything and then you got to tear it down. Powder coat. Well, when I tear this bike down, I still got a mountain of work ahead of me because I got to box in all that frame and plate it all up and the swing arm and all that stuff. And that can't be done until you tear it down after mock-up. So there's a lot to be done. I think, if I think about all the tasks that need to be done, I think I have gone over the hump. And I think I'm on the downhill for fabrication, but I don't know, man. I don't know what I don't know. I come up, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So that's all I do. This is a huge task that needs to be done, the build being that task, and I just focus on doing one thing every day. Today I'm going to build, or like last night, I'm going to cut some slots in those dang stock heat shields, and it looks trick now, you know? And just continue. Mark or check one thing off of the list, move on to the next.
Don't burden yourself with the bigger picture. Just focus on the smaller tasks at hand.
Yeah. That's good advice for any project.
Yeah, it definitely is. So, it just sucks because like what motivates me to finish a project is the deadline. Yeah. You know, maybe it is like a Sturgis build or a Daytona build or whatever. So like, I'm like, if I don't give myself that deadline, it's like that last FXR I had. Like I'm gonna take it apart and kind of work on it here and there. And it's like, dude, I need a new camera. Like, fuck this bike over here. Let me get rid of it. I sold that bike and bought the camera that I have now.
I know. Yeah, but for me, real life can get in the way, right? Since I have deadlines that I need to meet in my in my day job, right? Yeah. So that when life gets in the way, well, then now I'm not going to have all that added pressure on me that I have to have this bike done by some artificial date. So it's a little bit different of a situation for me.
It's a smarter way to go about things because, making promises that you can't keep to customers on deadlines or making a promise, to yourself on a deadline that's, going to make you do less of the quality work that you would normally do.
Right,
but it's almost like one of those deals because now things are on social media. Like a company like mine that lives on social media, if I'm building a bike for Sturgis and I don't make Sturgis, then it's kind of like I pass up the opportunity for this bike to have a purpose. I can finish it after Sturgis, but Sturgis ain't for another year. So by that time, it's going to be old news on social media. And you know what I mean? It's a different dynamic now with the social media thing. And not everybody sees it that way, and I completely understand. But some of our brands that kind of live on social media and have to create things to,
Well, you're trying to probably come up with a lot more content on a regular basis, so you're falling into the algorithm and keeping yourself current and exposed out there. Where somebody like me, I don't care. It's not so
much that I want to stay in the algorithm. It's just that I want to stay busy You know what I mean? Like I want people to see that we turn work out. I want people to see that we do things.
Yeah.
You know, because I want people to understand that, like, you know, I don't post much. Maybe not as little as you.
Sure. No, I get it. Yeah, you're not on there every day.
I'm not an everyday poster on my Instagram.
Yeah.
I story every day because I like to show people what's going on around the shop in my life. It's not quite worthy of a post or whatever, but you know, it's important to do those things to stay up to date because we do have people that are looking at us and customers that want to work with us. That is their first impression of us, because I got customers all over the world now that their only connection to me is what they see through social media. So, you know, I'm super honest and open with our stories, and I put whatever's going on there, but I'll put better quality photos, more curated photos on my actual Instagram.
Right.
Well,
yeah, that's not a bad model.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be superficial or in disingenuine, but you know, it is important that we stay doing stuff. Even if I'm not working, I'm going on a family vacation, I should probably show them, like, look, man, I'm out here having fun with my wife and my kids right now.
Well, at least it's new material that you're posting for the most part, right? Some people, I think, lean too much on their past life and constantly are posting old stuff, whether it's Throwback Thursday, Way Back Wednesday, or whatever.
We got them all now.
Yeah, it's too much. Like you're relying on your past life, you're on laurels of the past.
Yeah.
Whereas like let's see what you're doing that's new. Don't just show me your flashback.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean,
you could sprinkle that in. Listen, I'm kind of
sometimes whenever I want to post a picture of my gold FXR, I'll go scroll down my timeline and say, okay, how many weeks has it been since the last time I posted this bike?
There's nothing wrong with the occasional deal, but people who are just posting nothing but look what I did back then, like, come on, let's do something new, man. Don't feel this obligation to just keep posting material, and you didn't come up with something today, so you're going back and looking through old photos.
And that's what I'm saying. I don't do that.
Obligatory posting.
If I don't have anything to show, I just like don't show anything.
It's great.
You know, that way I'm not, you know, it's kind of gross when you just see a bunch of the same shit over and over again.
I get sick of that stuff.
You feel like you're trapped in some kind of weird algorithm where you're like seeing old shit again. Like, dude, I saw this like 2 days ago. Oh, we reposted it again.
That's right. That same trip that you took in 2016. Yeah, we've seen all these pics before. Thank you. Yeah, move on. Yeah.
Well, it's good, man. I had fun.
Thanks for having me.
We talked about everything, dude.
How long have we been talking?
2 hours and 46 minutes.
That is unbelievable.
It's good, man.
It really flies by.
We covered culture.
Yes.
FXR's past and present.
Yes.
Fractions.
I am satisfied with this output.
It's been good, man. I enjoy it.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. I'm honored that you would invite me. I didn't know what the heck we were going to talk about. I thought we could talk about this new build in 10 minutes, and then we're going to be twiddling our thumbs. But naturally, you're a natural at Organic Conversations.
I'm a shit talker.
Well,
I'm just stoked you came out, man. Like I said, it's one of those things, like we built this place, and I want to see it to use. I want to get more people out here to come and sit down in here. And you know, the YouTube is very small compared to YouTube standards. But like I said, sooner or later, this thing is going to continue to grow just like everything else.
Yeah.
And, you know, these first year or two of podcasts and video, they'll still be there if anybody wants to see them.
That's
so
right. Yeah.
I'm trying to get more big companies coming out, like more people to like physically fly here to do this podcast and bring their products and their shit. And
well, hopefully they can see the value in what you bring.
Well, I hope they do, and I hope they understand that, like I said earlier about, like, you have to help build the place you want. Like, if you make the effort to come here, if you're fueling and you fly here and you bring your cams or your new shit and you show them on the video, yeah, we might only have a certain amount of people, but that thing's still on YouTube every day. You can just share it, and then people will see it, and they'll get to hear your whole story and see your products right there.
Why wouldn't anybody want
or
to do this?
You can wait till I do it over the course of the next 5 years to get to that $100,000 mark, and then I'm gonna be a little more salty because I hold grudges. Like, you know what I mean?
I understand. Completely.
I remember when I had to ride to your shop 4 times and you never even answered the door.
Ooh.
I was all the way across country on my bike. I was cold and wet, and you wouldn't let me in to do a podcast, and now you're begging.
Listen, whether you go to them or they come here, I enjoy listening to the podcast. I especially enjoy the ones with legends.
Yeah.
You talking to a Yaffe, a Covington, a Shope.
Yeah.
I mean, those things, those really like just grab my attention because I like hearing about the stories. Any of the podcasts that are more story oriented, that just appeals to me for whatever reason. It appeals to me more.
Because those story ones become a little bit more timeless when something like, say ours right here, right? It's very important what we talked about, but it'll get dated because we talked a lot about culture right now.
Yeah.
And so if you listen to this in 2 years, you might be like, man, like we were talking about woke people, like they all died.
You remember when woke?
Remember that was a thing?
That was a thing. You remember
they all got beat up.
Yeah. Who knows what it's going to be like in 2 or 5 years from now, or whatever. But yeah, we'll have this to go back and listen to
every day, like almost every day. I don't want to sound too full of myself, but a lot of times in a week, someone will go, "Hey man, I found your podcast and I really love it. I'm listening to. I'm on number 14 right now." I'm like. Whew, so here's the deal, man. You might want to listen to some of the new ones and the old ones. Don't just judge me based on that shit back then.
Oh, man.
Okay?
So they're working through it. They're starting from the beginning.
A lot of people start in the beginning, man.
Oh, gosh.
And I don't blame them. Like, I get it. Like, oh, it's only 150. I thought I was going to do it with Rogan. When I started listening to him at 800 something, I was like, dude, I can't do this.
I'm not going to do it.
But I appreciate that they're doing that. But like I said, I went, this podcast follows my life too. So when I have ups and downs, like, you kind of get the vibe. Yeah. And I had a couple dark, especially in the first year, just rough times with this or just in life. So, but when I try to tell people like, hey man, like maybe listen to some of the old, but also take advantage of some of the stuff that's out now because it's all relative to what's going on now. So maybe
he's always going to be behind.
Yeah.
Or it'll take a while to catch up.
Yeah.
Right?
So maybe work your way to the middle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not a bad approach.
So I don't know, but yeah, I appreciate everybody doing that, man. It's just
keep it up. You're doing a great job with it. The photography's looking good. The podcast is awesome. I'm sure your listenership is growing.
It's growing well. Yeah,
keep it up.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Okay,
Cory. They can follow you at MainDrive Cycles
at MainDrive Cycle and MainDriveCycle.com.
Cycle, not cycles. I think I got it right.
Yeah,
I'll go check them out on Instagram. Give them a follow.
Yeah, cool. Appreciate it, bud.
Thanks, bud. Fucking Jaden trying to.
Was he texting you?
FaceTime calling me right now? Or he did?
Freaking Jaden. That's son of a dragon. Call me dragon.
What up?
I was just checking with you because y'all were talking about FaceTime. I'm still at the office.
Like it? Yeah. Good time.
Yeah.
All right, bud.
Put them on camera.
What's up, Playboy?
What's up, Eric?
Hey, did you listen to this crap?
Yeah, other than a couple times where I had to step out and do something. Yeah, I watched as much of it as I could.
Gosh, I pity you.
No, man, it's awesome. It was a good one.
Oh,
I like
good.
the live ones. I like them a lot. If I'm around, I definitely watch the live ones just because you feel more connected than a week later or whatever. Plus,
Awesome.
when things happen and you see like the mishaps and stuff, it's just funnier there. Seeing the comments, seeing your friends comment on stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
Especially when you know the people. Like you are, hey, I know that guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you already feel the connection.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Right on.
Cool.
All right, sucker.
All right, man.
All right, bud.
Does it tell you when you're streaming